Oh my goodness. And while we are waiting for him to come in, hello. How are you?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you. Thank you so much for being on your mark and ready to go for this very first experience on Zombiepalooza Radio Live. While I am pulling up your pictures, please tell folks who you are and what it is you do.
Well, my name's Larry DiBartolomeo. Lived in Southeast Cleveland most of my life, except for 4 years in college. And kind of got in a different arena a few years ago with filmmaking and more so of acting. And I'm really trying to pursue that and get to the top of my game.
All right. So, yeah, we're going to roll out of here so that people can see this first picture. Tell us about this shot.
Well, this shot was a short film we did, was called No Such Thing. And this was the look I gave the one lady that asked to be topped off, her drink be topped off, and she called me barkeep. And I told her, don't call me that. So that's where that shot came from.
Oof. And all right, so we're talking a little bit before about acting, and our first guest was a voice actor. Talk to me about where you had to go to be able to get the look on your face. Where did that come from?
Maybe from dealing with two daughters. I don't know.
I sympathize. I have four.
I just, just trying to get into the moment, like the gentleman said before, and kind of getting into character. And I it's something that I thought of that I don't like to be called a barkeep. And there's a couple other things that I don't like. So I put on what the Italians call a fungia face.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar. I'm very familiar, but we won't talk about that.
Oh, we don't talk.
Yeah. All right. So how did you get into acting?
Well, several years ago, a good friend of mine, Dennis Castiglione, and I went to do a trailer for a film that was coming out. Another friend of ours, Doc Gornett, and it was just a trailer being done, and a couple major people in there, Bobby Costanza and Tony Sirico in that. I talked with Tony a little while, and I enjoyed what he was saying. The last time I had acted was my senior class play in 1966, and that was done on a dare. But I really felt that it was something I could do. I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of CE classes for pharmacists across the country, Cardinal Health, McKesson, local pharmacy associations. And I really like to get out there. Since having to quit football, I quit football at age 40. I played minor league football till 40. But I wanted something to do with myself, with my mind, keep myself sharp, and just kind of develop another arena for myself. I always talk about when I talk to kids and about motivation and not having just that one arena that they're in, but getting into other arenas that they can fall back into. So it started about 5 years ago. Another friend of mine that I did a movie with Dennis and Jason Klingensmith, he gave me an opportunity to do some shorts with him. And I will never forget, him for that opportunity. I thank him a lot. It was very important to me because it got me to be with some other actors, but also to get in some shorts that we did that were 5, 7, 10 minutes long.
Give us a little about this.
This was a scene from Sweet Girl. And if you see the fellow on the right, that's Justin Bartha, who was the fella that got stuck on a roof in Hangover. And I asked him, later on in the day, once we developed some conversation, how the heck can an individual as smart as you get stuck on a roof at Caesar's Palace for 2 days? But I did have some dialogue with him in this picture, but it ended up getting cut. But at least my backside made it to the film with, I was with a
nice suit.
That was a suit. That was a tuxedo. It was a gala event.
Oh.
And we
Very
filmed that in
nice.
Pittsburgh. We filmed that in Pittsburgh. The story behind that, I came in, there was probably 120 girls and 120 guys, and we all filed in, and they put me in a corner. And I said, there's no way in the world that I'm going to be seen on this movie if I'm in this corner, on this tent top in the corner. So about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the producer came over and said, I want you to come up. So I came up with the girl next to me, and that's how this scene started, which was just by happenstance.
You gotta be able to have some initiative when you are a background artist. Got to have some initiative.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that initiative and how you, because working on films, even like especially indie films, you're on for a long time. There's a lot of patience involved. Talk about that.
Well, it's working on indie film. I really kind of relate that back to all the years that I had played football and other organized sports. There's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of going over and over and over the lines or what your blocking assignments were, so that you know that inside and out. And once you put that VCR in, or CD in the machine, it's automatic. And that's basically what I try and do with filming. Although sometimes I stumble on my lines, but I try and prepare myself. And when you're in holding, review what you're doing. When you're in holding, play back the lines of that other person that's going to be in that scene with you. Just keep going over and over and over. Repetitious is great, to keep going and going and going.
But sometimes I find that if I keep repeating the line, it starts to get flat. How do you not have that happen?
I agree. And sometimes it gets flat. And when you do auditions sometimes, and then you send them off that night because they have to be turned around in 24 hours. And then the next day, things are like flying out of your mouth in a different vernacular. But
right.
Yeah, it does get flat at times, but you just got to say, who am I playing? What am I doing? And how is this going to relate to the audience? So
yes.
Let's
look at this.
Oh, I'm a Don here. This movie is called Hell City. It's finishing up right now. I am dealing with the Russian, per se, Don or leader over here, and there's kind of a war going on between a black faction, the Russians, and the Italians. And the Russians are trying to take over this one part of the city, and the Italians had it for years, and the blacks are trying to forego and get that back. But I'm a Don. We didn't have very good conversation in this scene, and he was getting everything. So
you're looking a little grumpy. Is this some sort of typecasting going on here?
Well, sometimes I enjoy playing. I enjoy playing mobsters, but I enjoy playing some other things. I played some with TKF and Jason Clinton Smith. I've played some silly roles that I'm surprised I played.
Here we go. We've got our next shot. Let me get out of the way. I love this. Look at that.
So I played a doctor. I auditioned. This was from Ohio University, a student senior play. Ohio U always has Ohio and LA. And this semester, because of COVID, they did not go to LA to do this movie or their movie. So I auditioned, and I was the only adult per se in the movie. I played a doctor, and it was a lot of fun. The students were great. Roger Cooper, the head of the department, treated me like a prince. And we had a great time for 3 days going down to OU and spending time with the kids.
How long did it take for this scene to actually happen for real in the box or in the can, as they say?
In the can. We probably did that on film maybe 5 times, 6 times. We rehearsed it several times, but actually video, we probably did it 5 times. And then they did opposite points of view from the other side, the camera.
Because there's always shots when you're on, and I remember my first indie film that I got asked to be a part of. So first of all, I didn't realize like many people, how long of a day it's going to be. But then there's the weather, and if it's usually for me, it's freezing outside, and we're standing out there around and doing our things and all of that kind of, stuff and things. And then there is, okay, we like it from this angle. Now we have to get it from here. We have to get it from here. Why do they have to do all of those angles? Do you know why?
Well, I don't know for sure, but from my vantage point, I think they want to get the dialogue between the participants in that scene. Also, you're going to give your delivery from a different point of view. Sometimes you're going to get a different expression on your face or a different look. So I think that's what you want to do, but it kind of blends so that you're not seeing continually one person for that whole scene, but you're seeing both. And in that scene, I was with the nurse, then I was with the patient in the bed, so there was scenes coming across from there for that. And I think there was 3 different points of view from that.
Absolutely. We're going to go and look at this next one.
Giovanni, this movie was vile. A friend of mine, Scott Brocious, wrote it, produced it, directed it, and brought it to the screen. Vile was filmed when COVID was going on. And it's so ironic that he wrote this film without knowing all the implications that real COVID was done. The story is about a virus that went on, and people were worried about it, and there wasn't serum, and there wasn't enough people to make everybody healthy or keep everybody alive. This particular scene, I was the radio station manager in a small, it was actually in Oberlin that I filmed this. And I was a radio station manager, and one girl came in and held a gun on me, and she said she wanted me to make her famous, and she wanted to tell her story. So consequently, we went into the recording booth at the radio station, and she broadcast the message.
Very cool. All right. So what did you have to, this really looks like you put a lot of yourself into it. How did you prepare for this particular scene?
Well, that's a good question. Scott, said I was going to do this, and I was in the movie, and so I started growing a gruffy beard about 14 days before the movie. And at this time when the movie was, my hair was a little long, and I just let it all over my head, and I brought my old school glasses, and I really wanted to get into the moment. I rehearsed with the girl that brought me into the, with the gun on me, and I did a big swallow, but I just kind of thought about what if it was the situation. Now here again, we're in the middle of COVID. This was 2 years ago. This was 2 years ago. We all had masks on. We all had COVID protocol, of washing, making sure everybody's right. Mask, but we took our masks off during this. This film parallels the real COVID so much. It's really, if you have a chance, it's vile. It's called Vile, to take a look at it.
We're going to make sure that we have all the links and everything that we talk about on the show this evening that I haven't grabbed before. We're going to make that happen so that everybody is happy. All right, happy. So we're going to go and we're going to take our next shot.
The Exchange.
And that's Jay down on the bottom. I'm sorry it got cut off. It's
TKF Productions.
TKF Productions.
Yep. TKF is a small film group community that I'm with. That was partly Jason Klingon-Smith and a couple other people. This was written. It's got a big twist at the end, but I'm playing a hard guy. And the guy comes in, and we're trying to do a deal that appears to be a drug deal. And I talked like this in the whole movie so that everybody thought I was different than what I was. So cool. It was fun. And once you watch the movie, you'll get a big chuckle on it, but it was pretty serious going the whole length.
All right. So we're looking at this, and you're talking about how did you morph into this character?
I'm Italian. It's one. And just
besides the obvious, Besides, what did you have to do?
Well, I just thought back to a lot of the individuals that I knew when I grew up. I knew on, Little Italy and Murray Hill and Cleveland.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So,
Carino's over there.
Carino's, Nito Italia, La Dolce
Yeah.
Vita,
I miss that.
So,
So
yeah,
I
I
miss that.
that's what I thought about and how it could be. And, I wanted to look pretty bad and, like rough. And this guy was coming to me to do a deal. And that was the exchange. I don't want to give it away, but it's a fun,
Yeah.
a fun 7-8 minute movie.
But I got questions.
I know.
Somebody told me I'm supposed to ask questions on here, so
Well,
I'm asking questions.
And I love them. I love them.
I appreciate you. Thank you. All right, so we're going to go over to our. We got some great shots. Unfortunately, it's a little cut off, but you get the idea. Watch when I get out of the way. The difference. Look at
Bless you, my child. That. Bless you, my child.
It's been a long time since I've been to confession. You don't want to hear it.
Well,
they're going to write a movie. I know they are.
So this movie was called Call Me. And I was a priest that was, I wasn't a bad priest, but I was a priest that cared about the community. A woman and her daughter got kidnapped. And I was giving a blessing in the car to these two people that were going to try and get her released. I ended up in another scene that me and another fella ended up killing, not me, but the other fella shot a bad guy. But this was, I'm leaning into the car and telling them that on their journey and make sure that God's with them and they do what's best to the community and best for the people.
Absolutely. It's a good thing. I'm feeling a little guilty, so I'm going to get this one up as fast as I can.
Cover up that collar.
I'm like,
Jackie, cover up that collar.
The last time I'm a vampire. The last time I was in a church was, but we can go. We can go.
Oh yeah, I know. Just
don't
during
touch the water.
Just
don't
at
drink
night,
the water.
Just at night you can go.
And they do special things for me, but I'm not going to talk about that right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes we have deals. I take care of things.
Understood.
It's the way it is. All right. I like this. There's a good story behind this picture.
Yep. This was Disconnected. Jonathan Sharley wrote this, and there was, I think, 14 or 16 people that had monologues. It was all about, I spent more time on a bus driving around Akron that day. We spent about 14 hours on a bus driving around Akron. I saw more of Akron that day than I've saw in my lifetime. But everybody had a monologue about how everybody's disconnected from everybody. We pass everybody the other day. We don't say hello. Everybody's connected to their, their cell phones or their YouTubes or nobody's got any interpersonal relationships of talking about that. So there was several great people on this. If you can see it, it's great. It's called Disconnected by Jonathan Sharley. He's brilliant. He's a very, very smart writer. He produced it, did the camera work, got it all edited, and it was fun. It was really fun.
I went ahead and I made this a black and white photo because the picture was a little grainy and I wanted to be able to bring out the details. So this film is not black and white.
No.
Right. I'm just letting people know it's not,
okay.
It's not black and white, but if it was, it looks very periodic, for the time wise. And
so this came out just as COVID was coming out too. And it was kind of eerie that I was involved with two films. This was about, 60, 70 minutes, and Scott's film was like an hour and a half, the file. But it's kind of funny that these projects came out that related to what was going on without knowing what was going on. Does that make any sense?
Is it life imitating art or art imitating the?
I think it might be just visions, thinking out of the box.
Things, things seem to synchronize.
Sure
It's
do.
very interesting. All right, so let's go on to what do we got next? Ooh, I love the color of that wall. I want that on my wall. I want that.
Well, you got to go to, that's from North Carolina. I went down there 3-4 weeks ago. We're filming this movie called Mob Humor, and I'm the main Don down there. And then if you see that Jimmy, who's on, if you're looking at the picture on the left, he's one of the other Dons, and then on the right is Tony Faz, and he's another Don. And so we were down there, and this was just kind of a behind-the-scenes shot. The middle guy with the hat on is Ray Sal Ranella, and he's become a good friend of mine. Matter of fact, he's working on something with me right now. He does a lot of movies in New York City. So Jimmy's from Florida, and Tony Faz is from Florida. In this trip, I did meet several very nice people that I think I'm going to collaborate with on future programs.
It's fascinating.
So that was at a bar. Before we were seeing, we just sit down and somebody actually ended up snapping that picture.
Because look, how could you not with the background color? That looks
great.
Like it belongs on like on a book cover or movie cover, something cover. Make that happen.
Something cover, a cover.
Yeah.
So that's Mob Humor, and that's going to finish up in the spring, in the summertime.
All right, so then we're going to move on to. Okay, yeah. I have someone that I want you to meet for my next hour, so don't take off right away, okay?
Sure.
All right, we get out of the way again. You know the routine. Let me get out of the way.
DNA bloodline. This was a story. This was the second half of the story, and I am playing a parole board officer here and hearing the grievance about trying to get released. I didn't have a major role in this, but when I sent this to you, I thought it was a pretty good picture.
I like it
in the room. So it was a two-part video or two-part movie, and this was the second half.
Okay, all right. So I think I might have one more. Let me see. I put lots in here. We're back to where basically we started from, which is kind of cool because we get to talk about all of that. We went from this photo all the way down to the last one. That's a pretty good career start for you, for someone who has not been doing this very long.
Well, actually, I appreciate that. I actually probably got 38 credits to my on my IMDb. There's a lot of other shorts that I've done. I've done a couple voiceovers, but it's been fun. It's a learning and growing process. Every day is a new day. Like they said a long time ago, you can't close your patent office because everything that was made has not been made yet.
That is true.
So, to forge on, to get yourself better, to be in a different arena is good. The big arena from sports, I got bored for several years, and I kind of trying to take my craft to that level, keep the same focus and work ethic and determination I had in sports to get into film, and I'm not afraid to talk to people because I speak to, large audiences when I do pharmacist conventions. There's 250 pharmacists in there, and they're far smarter than I am. I speak to colleges and high school football teams on motivation and how to prepare and preparedness and what they need to think about to get themselves ready for that game. It's not just going out there and doing it. You got to be prepared, and no different than what you asked before about how do I get into that situation or how to get into that character. We got to think about that. And lately I've been trying to watch other movies and see how I can emulate some of those folks in my movies.
Some people, when they are actors and they know they're going to be doing a particular character, refuse to watch films that have characters that are like that because they're too worried about bringing something from them into their character. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I can appreciate them saying that, but on the other hand, you got to absorb what they're saying, that actor that you're watching. You got to see how they're delivering it, and then kind of mush it around and put it in your own vernacular. But try and make sure that you're kind of getting the same thing across. You know, everybody doesn't deliver a line the same way. Everybody doesn't think the same way when they're on set. So, I know when I get auditions to do that, you know, you got to figure out what that director or casting director is trying to figure out, and how you got to, you know, how you got to put yourself in that moment. So I think it's good to watch those. You know, I couldn't play a lot of people, but I like their delivery. I like how they're doing it, but I got to put it in my terms.
Absolutely. So you're in a scene, and you've got maybe 3 or 4 people at one, maybe directly, that you are interacting with, but there are other people in the room. There is going to be that energy from everyone in that room. How do you keep yours on point to do your line?
Focus. I think you got to focus. I did one, probably the best one that I did about a year ago, was with what's called PS, and it actually was just Danielle and I in that movie short, but really kind of focusing on the situation. And that kind of really hit home with me. There was a film about that my wife had passed away. Daniela was my daughter, and we had some words, and then we came back. But that reached a point for me that I really got into it. I fed off of what Daniela was saying. And I think in retrospect, she probably fed off of me. And that's really the first time that I was able to cry on film without faking it, because I really thought about situations with my family or with my girls or whatever.
Happened again. When you go into a character's mind, you will have that moment when yourself, your authentic self, although there's part of that because you're snapping into that piece that is going to help you make it authentic on film. But there's a click. There's like this symbiosis that happens, and you either are spot on and you're with it, or you're not. Have you ever gotten into a character where you found that after you were finished, it still hung with you for a while, and you were still in that mindset?
Yeah, there's been several of them. One I still recall is when I did Cut Reckoning, and I was a sheriff with a Southern accent. It still comes back to me quite a bit, which I had never done a Southern accent. I did the audition. He liked my delivery, my timing, and everything. And he asked me, "Did I ever do a Southern accent?" I said no, and I did one then, and he gave me the part. I think there's been a few other ones that have carried forward. PS was one of them. We did something in black and white, something about necromancy that's on, and that was a different one. I didn't say anything in that, but it was all visual for me.
Was it a film noir?
Yeah. And that's listed under TKF as well.
Absolutely awesome. You're talking, one of your talking points here is willingness to go beyond the script. Give me a little bit of a non-scripted narration of what that means.
Well, I think it's probably going into the script, trying to get on that in that moment, maybe thinking about, and some people want you to everything verbatim, you know, however the script's written has sometimes, but sometimes they let you put your own personality in there, or add a little bit of different dialogue. So I think that's important sometimes, not all the time, but going beyond the script is thinking too about what the next step is, not just in the movie, but how that person's going to react outside of that. Because oftentimes you do that one scene and it goes to some other scene, but where's that person going to be at the time after that scene that you did? Does that make any sense to you? Or?
Absolutely. I get it. Thank you so much for that. All right. So be the best you can be. What does that mean to you right now as of maybe the difference between that best you 5 years ago and that best you now?
Best you 5 years ago wasn't so good. And it's an evolution. You know, you're evolving every day, every script you do. Even if I don't get, if I do auditions and I don't get the part, I've learned something. I've learned something how to maybe be in that moment. I've done everything and anything, WebMDs and, bad guys, but trying to get into building that process and learning from what's there. Critical, I don't mind criticism. I don't mind being critiqued. I think that only makes you better. That's no different than a football coach or an acting coach or a director. They want you to be better and they're going to help you get better, but you got to listen. You got to get to the next level. You
get to the next level by surrounding yourself with people that are at that level that you want to achieve. So whom in your circle of 5 have you brought to you within, say, the last year or so to help you get to that next level?
Well, I think one big guy is Dennis Castiglione. He's helped me out quite a bit. Jason Klingensmith in going through some things. And then there's people here and there. Scott Brocious is, we're doing a new movie now. He just started filming a couple weeks ago. I think he's at Filmapalooza tonight. But so it's trying to surround myself with those people. We had a table read last Sunday for this movie, Chains of Redemption. And I looked around the room, and these are all A-class indie people that are in Cleveland, and probably 5 or 6 of them were SAG. So that's cool.
Is that Johnny Woo's bunch?
No. Johnny Woo, I was in his movie last year, but some of these people are in Johnny Woo's. This is Scott Brocious's film.
Yeah.
White Midnight Films.
I would love to get into that inner circle and see where we can do some indie interview.
Johnny Woo's amazing, and
he's fabulous.
Oh, he's beyond fabulous.
He can teach you how to market yourself, your product, your whatever your venture is, and he can do it in a way you understand how to do it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so you have your family, you have your business, you have your sports, you have your creating, you have your acting. Do you ever turn it off?
No. If you turn it off, you go stale. I mean, I work my business. I'm in the investments and insurance business. I do a lot. I have clients all over the 40 states or so with pharmacists pretty much. So that continues to grow, and I take care of that. The movies have been good to get my mind in a different direction. My family's important. I see my grandchildren as much as I can, although they're in Chicago, and that's 6 hours from
it's a long way. Yes.
Yeah, so they're coming in next week for a week. I can't wait. But no, I've seen too many people in my business when they retire and they just let everything go, and their mental health and their physical health all goes downhill. They're not doing anything to keep themselves active, to keep their minds active. And I think you got to keep your mind active. I just saw this this PSA we did for Veterans Administration. It finally came out. It's not public, but it was about Alzheimer's and all the things that are about Alzheimer's. And then we did a little skit, and then we did a public service address. But too often I see too many people just go downhill. I've had 5 or 6 clients 4 or 5 years after they retired pass away. Got to keep your mind sharp.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to get off of that. We're going to go on to something else. What is the most important project that you can discuss freely where you felt you made an advance?
Well, outside of my family,
Familia first. Familia
Oh
first.
yeah, absolutely.
Always. But
yeah, my family's the most
outside
important.
of that,
Yeah.
outside of that.
So I've done well on a couple short movies and a couple major films, but the thing I'm really focusing on right now is I'm writing my own screenplay. I've been thinking about it for the last couple years. I don't want to give too much out, but
Nice.
it will be filmed in Cleveland, actually in Little Italy.
Yes.
I have written the cast around my movie, or my movie around the cast. So I have identified all the main characters or people that I'm going to cast in different situations in this. And I've talked to them already, and I am so excited. I just got to get, number one, I'm about 60, 70% done. So I got about 45 pages done. Probably got to get to 70 or 80. I have locations identified. I have things in the movie that I have identified. I have a crew of, I grew up in Warrensville, and there's about 28 guys that we are so close. I've known them since we were 4 years. I'm 4 or 5 years old. I'm 73. So you can imagine how long we've been friends. We go to breakfast the first Sunday of every month and the third Thursday of every month.
That's giving back to people, you know,
Well,
I
you
love
know,
that.
and it's fun. And we used to talk about, when we were young, we used to talk about girls and cars. Now we talk about Medicare, who's having what problem, who's going to the hospital.
So you're
But
the
it's
old
all-
guys that sit in the back and, you know, nobody
It's all
messes with them
good.
because you're in the Italy Malone.
It's all good. So they're
That's
going to
beautiful.
be my background guys, and all of them are Italian except one. We got a token Irishman, Flanagan. So he's going to be part of there. He's going to be like our Don Hagen, Tom Hagen in the movie. Anyway,
I had one. His last name is Cavan.
so that's the project I'm working on. Actually, Sal Ranella is helping me a little bit with the script. And I'm going to start, once I get a trailer done and the script done, I'm going to start raising some funds. I have some people committed, but they want to see what they're committing to.
Yeah, you know, but so, okay. All right. So that's a good segue. How do you go about proving that you are the one and they need to pay attention? What do you bring to the table they're going to ask? And so what will you show them or tell them?
Well, I think in the big picture, I will talk about the people that are going to be involved with the movie. There'll be, some Class A people. Everybody's going to be Class A, but there'll be some SAG people in the movie. I think I talk about, and I feel that my integrity is one of the most important things.
Yes.
I'm in this business since 1971 of selling intangibles. And if I didn't have the integrity, I would have been long gone, because you can't touch the investments, and you can't touch the insurance, and you can't touch the financial planning. So I think that's what I've brought to the table. I think that people respect me for that. People look at how I've built my family, I'm done with my family, and how much I've taken care of and helped my daughters grow as people. And married for 47 years to the best person in the world.
That's
so
awesome.
I think that all goes to show who I am, and what my deliverables are going to be are kind of, a lot of that movie that I'm writing are kind of like going back to some of my family situations, or some of the situations that were around Little Italy when I was younger. So I think that's the biggest thing, me, my integrity, and how we can develop with those named people. I don't want to be in a situation, I know that they have trailers out there and that they haven't cast anybody. So they're doing a concept trailer, but none of those people in a concept trailer are going to be in a movie. And I don't want to do that. I want to have this concept trailer done.
I've seen this happen, and it has destroyed friendships. It's caused all kinds of chaos, and you don't need that.
Yep.
You don't need that. All right. So what advice would you give to those thinking about creating in your modality?
I think that you got to, number one, believe in yourself and believe in your ability. I love a quote that I talk to people about, George Bernard Shaw. Anything the mind of man can conceive and believe it can and will achieve. And I think that's a mantra that I like to develop off of. So in developing where you're at, take some chances. What's the worst that could happen? You know, you want to audition for something, you don't make it, they tell you no, but you've learned something. So learn these little pieces, and put those all together and kind of mold that into where you're at and be better the next time. You know, oftentimes I've done auditions way back and I knew it blew them. Once I look at them a couple days later, I said, wow, I don't even believe I sent that in. But you learn from that. So I think people should really embrace what their abilities are, you know, and think of all the good things that they have, even if you got to draw a T chart, all the things that I can do well. I can speak to people, I can think with people, I can talk with people, and I want to develop that, you know. And then what the weaknesses are on the other side, what the weaknesses are on the other side, you want to develop those and kind of convert those into positives.
So the lady that has just entered the building. This is Jade Chin, and she is one of my daughters. Do you have audio at all? You can't hear? Can't speak? Can't? Okay, bye. we got to try it again then, or you can stay there if you want to stay. But you know, so I'm going to oh, you're connecting to audio. All right, I'm going to let you do your thing. I would love you to stay though. All right, so as we're going and doing the process of acting, what do you do right before you're ready to do your line?
Well, I'm waiting for my trigger line from the paragraph or lines before, and it should be automatic that I'm going into what I'm trying to say, and really get myself in the moment. If there's been several dialogues before me, but kind of positioning myself and getting ready to say my line. So how the line before me is delivered, and then what I'm going into next.
How do you market yourself? I mean, we've talked about a lot of other things, but how do you go about marketing yourself?
Well, that's a good question. My background's sales, as you know, and we're going back to intangibles. Even though I'm tangible, I'm an intangible when people see what I'm out there. So I try and get on as many things that I possibly can that are posted on Facebook. I try out for auditions. I see people that are doing films and they're friends of mine, or I'll friend them on Messenger and send them my demo reels. And I'd ask them to take a look to see if there's anything I can be considered for. I ask other people to help me get introduced, but that's kind of tough to put them in a spot, you know, that they may not feel comfortable for. But the big thing is really kind of marketing myself, reinventing myself, get myself out on the internet, doing the demo reels, making sure, you know, I'm on Actors Access. I'm on a couple other websites that I've been pulling them from. I'm with 2 agencies, and I keep kind of pushing, not negatively, but I want to get myself out there. I believe what I can do. Just like when I played football, I didn't want to come off the field. I was 40 years old and I still wanted to be on the field playing and beating out somebody that was a Division I football player at left guard that just came out of a D1 school, and I was equal ability. I didn't want to leave, and that's, you know, that's how I am. I want to be the same way on set, and I just have to have the opportunity. Give me the opportunity to show what I can do. I always told my daughters when they were looking for a job, you got to know some people to get in front of them. You got to know somebody to be able to show somebody.
Yes.
So if you can't know somebody or have a connection, you can't show them anything.
So Jade, can you hear me? Yeah, but you know what? You don't have a microphone, so you're not going to be able to be on this. You need this to be able to talk so I can hear you. Okay, so go ahead and click out and we'll talk about this later. Oh, okay. All right. All right. She's going to try again.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, that's what this is about. It's about, you know, going and trying it out and seeing what happens. So you say every time you've done a feature or a background, you meet a lot of really good people. So talk about that experience when you're, after you finished the piece, talk about how that connection is important.
Okay, so when you're, when you're doing a major feature in your background or feature background, you spent a whole lot of time in holding. So I kind of try and surround myself with people that look like they're approachable or talkable, and getting some dialogue going. And from there, you kind of build some friendships and keep in touch. I know the last one I was on, I met a bunch of nice people. At Wheat Germ, we did that. I know when I was on Cherry, same thing with Judah and Black Messiah. I met some quality people that I've continued to grow with. They're in the same boat as I am. They're trying to make a name for themselves. So if we can help each other and turn people into or turn people onto other situations, that's what it's all about. People helping people.
Right.
So that's been great. In meeting some of these people, and they're quality, absolutely quality, but they're taking baby steps like I am.
Absolutely. All right, I was on another page. All right, I guess you have audio and all of that.
To dating a gamer.
All right.
Hey.
Yay, you did it. Okay, so do you have any questions for this current guest?
I do apologize, but at some point in time, I got kicked out of the thing when she sent me the email.
Okay. All right. So that's a no.
So my thing is that actually, what exactly? I don't think she has asked you, but what has motivated you to start acting? Like, I know for me, for working at Haunts as an actor, it would be because of some insecurities of mine that I felt that acting as a ghoul would have helped me feel more like I fit in.
Okay, good question. What's motivated me to acting? Number one, I really wanted something that I could get into that would stimulate my mind and show my abilities. I relate back to sports. That was one thing. But sitting still and not doing anything really kind of troubles. I can't sit still. So getting into acting and putting myself into different characters, and like I'm saying, going back five or some years ago, and being involved with those small films, or being an extra, I was in Doc's film. It was called Assassin's Code. I played a CSI agent. I had small, but just being around that environment, for some reason, it dragged me in. It just dragged me in. And I'm saying to myself, heck, I can do that. I just need to get to another level. It's no different than training for sports, for football. It's just a different training. And as I go along, I get more excited. I want to get more parts. I want to do different people and different things, and different mantras as far as my presentations are. I mean, I like being a mobster. I can tell you that beyond the shadow of a doubt. But I have other characters that I can play. They're light and silly and fun, and I can transform into those. But I guess your question is, I wanted something that was rewarding, that I could do beyond that sports arena.
So kind of like a award of serotonin, something to keep you going and thinking and kind of keeping you uplifted and happy.
Yep.
I get it. I write and act and whatnot. I actually have a platform on TikTok where I just now hit 11K.
Wow.
11,000.
And it's also still gaining. I don't know what I did. Can you please put all that into likes?
Get a shout out to your TikTok page real quick.
Sergeant Jackass Sergeant underscore Jackass. Yes, I know. I'm not military. I have never been in the military, although a fellow member of the family who has been in the military has given me the nickname many years ago.
Cool.
All right. Good. So do you have another question for him before I go to
Have
the
to
next
give you
segment?
the boot.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's amazing grammar there. So where exactly are you looking at taking your career in acting?
I would like to get in some major motion pictures and even having a supporting role or, a lead role. I know that's a ways off, but you never know. As I
It could
said
never
earlier,
be too far away.
no, as you got to keep dreaming. Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream. I have a dream. I want to get there. I'll get there someday, hopefully, God willing. But it's just I want to get to that next level. And first of all, being supporting. I had a great audition that I got for a major TV show as a special guest star last week.
That's
It was
really
kind of
cool.
tough because he gave you 20 hours to do it, and there was a lot of lines. I sent it in, and I know it got past the agency, and it got past the casting director. It was just sitting on the producer's desk, but obviously I didn't get it. But that was an experience too. For 7.5 minutes, uh, in film, there was 3 different pieces. Dennis Castiglio and my good buddy and Debbie Scaletta helped me with that. It took us over 3.5 hours to do because we had different takes and different likes. And Dennis has a great camera, so we were doing cuts and got rid of that. What an experience, and hopefully I'll get another one. I look at least at this point, I got in front of some of the right people, and maybe because this show does a lot of crossovers, maybe you'll have another opportunity.
Absolutely. So it's interesting that this next question is going to be asked while I have a young person here just starting out. So if you were to give your younger self advice, what would that be?
Well, I think first of all, if this is something that you really want to do, and you got to think about that, but get yourself in the arena. Get as many auditions and films as you can, make as many contacts as you can, take as many hard knocks as you can, because you're only going to grow. Like I said earlier, and like in sales, what's the worst that can happen? They can tell you no, but you're going to grow. So I think if you start early and start putting putting some centers of influence together that you can build upon, perhaps get with an agency that can help you direct and put a good reel together for yourself. I think it's kind of paramount. I think my first reel from 2020 is nowhere as good as my 2021 reel. Why? Well, because I was in additional films, I accessed different clips, and I think I've gotten much better. I'm working on another one that I'm going to do now. Baby steps, but get yourself out there. Don't be afraid of the nose. Don't be afraid of the times you get punched in the jaw. It's going to happen. It happens to big people, big stars.
Absolutely does. You do motivational speaking to high school and college football teams. I see why they bring you back consistently. Is there one individual, though, out of doing all of these motivational speakings that you found you really touched that particular spot in them to help them see further?
Yeah, I think we're Sue. I'm going to kind of digress a little bit off your question, but
Sure.
I got an interesting story that I tell. April 21st in 10th grade, April 21st, 1965. I went to a school that had my class at 800 people just in my class. I played varsity football, I played JV basketball, I played varsity baseball. April 21st, I slid into home plate. My body decided to go straight and my ankle decided to turn completely around and look at me. My foot was looking at me. Went to the hospital. Long story short, I missed my whole junior year of sports. But what happened was I wanted to get back on that football field one way or the other. I had to get back. That was my goal. That was all I thought about. I bought a football and I still have it that I went out. My dad had a restaurant. We lived above it. My dad, my brother, and I. It was kind of a family restaurant, and everybody stopped there every night for dinner. It was like clockwork. They all had assigned seats pretty much, but I dragged every one of those people out while their dinner was being prepared, and I would long snap. Long snapping is for punts or for extra points. And I said, one way or another, that's going to get me back on the field. So, I got very proficient in that. And then I came back my senior year and I played football, basketball, and baseball. I got a scholarship to college to play football. Now, mind you, I just had my ankle replaced this last December. I limped the whole time. But if I had anything done, I couldn't play. But I guess my speech in talking to these kids, you got to have some other dimensions in what you're doing. And I think it's important in life, in your business, and in a movie career. And that's what I said with the long snapping. I had another dimension. I had another arena that I could, shine in that a lot of people couldn't. Going back to the Canton Bulldogs, I was playing at 40 and we dressed 55, and there was young guys 23, 25 years old coming out of Ohio State, OU, and everything else. But guess who made the trip? I did, because I could long snap. They couldn't, the other ones couldn't long snap. So develop your craft, but have another craft in that craft that you can shine with. And I don't know if that answered the question, but I went all over the board on that one. But it's important to tell these kids, you can't be just focused on one thing. Football is one thing, but some of these kids are never going to play football after high school. Some of them are never going to play football after college. How can you transition all those things that you learned into life, into business, into building your family, and what those setbacks are and how you can live off of those and generate yourself further? And I think that's the message I can say. The one arena is the next level of football, college or pros. One arena is after high school is to go to college, but what profession, what discipline are you going to be in, what you're going to learn, and how you're going to do that. When I was in sales management, I would hire somebody that had a 3.9, grade point average. If they played sports or played extracurriculars or went theater and band or anything, over somebody that had a 4.2 average. Why? Because they had a different discipline about them and they can do different things.
All right.
And that's just me.
That's amazing. That's part of the reason why I wanted you here, Jade. I wanted you to hear this man because he knows about life. He's been through some hell, and I know that you can relate. So right now, I'm on a 2-minute mark, and I need you to go and say goodbye to him, and I want you to sign out of this segment after you do that, Jade.
Bye, Jade.
People, anyway, have a nice night. It was very nice meeting you. And
you as well, my dear. Good luck.
You have a lovely life.
Good luck with everything.
You too.
Bye, Jade. Wow. Thank you for being your authentic self here on my show. I am very appreciative of you doing that. I knew you were going to be fabulous on this, and you were. So right now, what I need you to do is I need you to give me your social media. If you have any, please let us know now.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the platform. I really appreciate it. My social media is Larry DiBartolomeo, IMDb, and I'm also on Facebook as Larry DiBartolomeo. And
I have his spelling of everything on our page on Zombiepalooza Radio Live Facebook. And for those who are not able to watch on the Facebook Live distribution that we're doing right now, I am going to be uploading it to our YouTube channel, which is Zombiepalooza Radio Live, and it should be available for viewing tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jackie.
Appreciate everything, and I will talk to you soon. Oh, wait a
I
minute.
appreciate it.
No,
What?
no, don't go yet. Don't go yet, because I want you to see if I'm right about this particular next guest, and I'm going to bring him on right now. Our next guest is Mariano Saulino, and he is also going to be bringing his wife with him, and so we're bringing them to call right now. And then we are also bringing Kathleen Swenson. What I need for you to do, though, is to lower your mic so it's not up here. Give it a little bit. There you go. Yes. All right. And I'm bringing in. This next segment is going to be a little bit different than what I have done for other segments on this show. We are actually going to be able to show a film that I'm very excited to show. Also, we will be showing the making of this particular film. But first, what I want to do is see if Larry knows Mariano. Is this the gentleman that you're talking about, Mariano?
Yes.
For
absolutely.
the movie? Am I right? I'm right.
Yeah, absolutely you're right.
Go ahead and say hello.
Hey, Larry. Nice
Hello, my
to meet
friend.
you. Hi there.
So
Nice to meet you.
if you would like to stay for this segment, Larry, you can, or if you need to go, you can do that too. But I am going to go in. Yeah, that's all. I just needed it off your nose because you were like heavy breathing there.
I'm sorry.
So, but now we got a master sound guy, so I need to make sure mine's where it's supposed to be, because he's like, no, up, down, or over to the right. All right, so we are moving into our next segment. We have with us Mariano Saulino and his lovely wife. Please introduce yourself to the audience while I go and I get the next round of like clips and stuff and things.
Okay. This is Mariano Saulino, film composer. I work mostly for, the independent film industry in US and national television in Argentina. We are based in Argentina, Buenos Aires, Argentina, and we also work in New Mexico, Los Angeles, and a few more places in the US, in the United States. So
I'm Silvina Saulino, and I'm the production coordinator from the studio. So I'm in charge of all paperwork and everything that it needs.
Absolutely. And then we have the lovely Kathleen Swenson. Please, for our audience, introduce yourself and let us know about a little bit about your background and what we are going to be discussing this evening.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Kathleen Swenson. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm married with 2 kids, and I currently work in the Albuquerque public school system teaching special education to mid-high 6th, 7th, and 8th. And of course, I also work in the New Mexico film industry for about 6 years now. And we're here today to talk about the film Art of the Mind.
Give us a little bit of a background on, first of all, who this lovely lady is and how she was inspiration for the film Art of the Mind.
So that is my mother when she was probably in her early 20s. And I wrote and produced this film in dedication to her. She suffered mental illness her whole life, and I wanted to do something special in dedication to that for not only her, but other people as well that suffer with mental illness.
So talk to us a little bit about whom she was outside of her mental illness. Who was she before this happened? What did she do?
She loved music, and she always played the piano since I can remember. And so that was a big part of this as well. She was very artistic. She would do needle points, and the art side of the brain was always going with her. And so, yeah, there's her music.
And this is, in fact, not just a like a picture of whatever, but these are some of her notes.
It is. So
Yes.
those are pieces from a song she composed called The Ocean Song. And she lived in California for a little while, and she loved the sound of the ocean. And so when she was writing it, she wanted to kind of, in her mind, that was how the ocean sounded to her.
All right, so we're going to get. I need a better way to do this, but this is probably going to go in the blooper reel too. When you first decided to start this film, what was your life like? What was your personal life like before you decided to go into creating this film?
This particular film?
Yes.
So I had, this film was, I had gotten some practice with acting and producing. And so I kind of wanted to take the next step. And I thought, I've never written anything. So why don't I try writing? And I had produced several things before this and acted in several things, but I've it just came to me that I'm like, I want to do something that represents people who suffer with mental illness, because we also have other family members who suffer. And so it's just something that's part of our life. And I had some general ideas of what I wanted to do, but I need to put the pieces together a little bit better. And so I had another friend that works in film with me, Joe Griffenberg. And I said, hey, Joe, I have this idea and that idea, but I can't quite put. And so together he was like, oh, what about this? Or what about that? And then after talking about it for a while, I was able to use some of the ideas that he had for me to help kind of make what's in my head become reality on film. And wrote the script. It wasn't a long script. It was about 7 or 8 pages. But it's tricky sometimes to have a beginning, a middle, and end in a short time like that. So, but I think it worked out okay.
I am looking for some of the. Now we're going to play your film live, but I have some shots from the film that I want to discuss, not the lines, but the impact. That photo is an impact photo. Talk to me about where your mind went when you made that face for film.
So the movie, it's a little bit, so this character, her name's Mary, and she suffers mental illness. And you don't really know what her true reality is when you see the beginning of the film. And so she is very intent on what she's doing and focused. But she's also there's a confusion side of this character too. I'm confused and I'm trapped, but I'm very focused on what I'm doing as well. And so there's a lot of intense intensity there.
We have some creators that make films and they say, oh, just go into whatever, you can to be able to hit that particular note or hit that particular facade that you're going to show the camera. That photo, very impactful because there are other things that are going on inside your life while you're making that face that represents this lady. And that conversation I'm going to have for another time with you, as we are going to be doing a number of these interviews, and we're going to be talking about impactful actions as actress and as a human being. Surprise. I told you I watched this and I was very taken by what was going on. And again, I don't want to give away because we're going to show both pieces. The original film, I believe, is 9 minutes and 8 seconds long. And I'm not going to show like the credits. I'm going to go and I'm going to stop it there. And then we are going to go into the next segment about the creation of this particular piece. But again, this is another face. This is the same character. Give me a little rendition about what was going on here.
So this is in her mind, okay? Art of the mind. So this is in her mind. This is her happy place. This is how she sees one of the characters in her happy place. That she's an artist, and this character is the art dealer. And this is a reality, one of the realities in her mind. But she slowly, as we go through this scene, realizes maybe this isn't her true reality. She's very conflicted.
You can see the look on her face where she is intent. She's still got that thing going on, but she's got that bit of question, like, and damn, this is good. This is just good. All right, so I am going to go and do like the thing that I've never done before and play your film. And so give me a few minutes of your patience while I work through this, and let's see.
Hi, Mariano.
Hi, Kathleen.
Hi.
So nice to see you. So nice.
You too.
Okay, Houston, here we go.
Here we go.
Wow.
This is going to be really great because we are going to have high quality audio also. So
Yes.
I'm so glad,
And we have ignition. Here we
Yeah.
go.
Mary Simmons, an artist known for her unique and fascinating way of viewing the world. Her art has intrigued many critics and fans alike. Throughout her creative years, she has been driven by one thing: the creation and appreciation of her own art. Each and every day, she can be found in her own world, surrounded by her art. Art of the mind.
You give me such peace and joy. I know. What would I ever do without you? All right. It's tea time. Elizabeth, I would like a cup of Earl Grey, a teaspoon of honey, and a slice of lemon. Remember, Elizabeth, don't let the tea steep longer than 2 to 3 minutes, or it'll go bitter.
Yes, ma'am. A teaspoon of honey, some cream, your favorite biscuits. Just what you ordered. Tea for 2.
Thomas! Do you prefer sugar with your tea?
Oh, yes, Mary. I like my tea on the sweeter side. 2 cubes, please. Mary, I am so happy you called me here to look at your newest pieces for our next exhibition. They are quite remarkable.
Thank you, Thomas. Of course, I do want you to consider my most recent piece for your exhibition. Sunflowers, rays of happiness. It warms my heart, like the sun.
Most certainly. That painting will be the centerpiece of the exhibition.
Thank you, Thomas. I completely agree. Cream?
Please.
This piece will be the success of the show.
Yes or no? Are you watching this on there? Look how cool that is. Look at that. Done there. Can't hear you.
Doctor, she refuses to take her medication.
We have told you numerous times, Mary, we can't help you unless you take your medication. Listen to Nurse Elizabeth and take your medicine.
Very good, Mary. You see? Do we say no harm will come to you? had in weeks, Doctor.
Yes, I quite agree. Tomorrow, up her meds.
Yes, Doctor.
Please, please let me out. I don't belong here. I'm an artist. Let me out of here. Please.
They say that art is in the eye of the beholder. This is especially true when it comes to art of the mind.
Okay, once. Okay, now give me a minute. Let me see what I can do because I still have sound playing. I'm going to bring it up to the next part and then we are going to, okay, we're going to, we're going to stop it right there. All right, we're going to stop that right there. And oh, so cool. Look at all this stuff. Now I have to be, truth be told, I wouldn't have known how to do that unless it was for the composer here, Mariano Saulino. And
You're doing great. You're doing really great.
Yes.
I appreciate. Okay, so heard the sound, saw the film. It is an absolute fascinating rendition of mind, body, and spirit that goes to the breaking point and how vulnerable we all are. Well done.
Indeed.
Thank you.
All right, so I would like to go from this point to the talking point of picking the individual that was going to make the soundtrack for your film. How did you go about doing that? And then please introduce your friend.
Are you me? Okay. So, this isn't the first time that I've worked with Mariano. And so we already had a very special relationship. And I wouldn't have wanted anybody else to do this. So, except Mariano. And we knew each other for, I think we had done 2 films prior to this.
Yeah.
One was a short, and then he had scored a full feature for us. And so, well, he's also done a comedy series, but so this one, he saw it. I said, what do you think? Do you think you would want to do this? And he said, yes. And I was very happy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And here we have, introduce him.
This is Mariano. He is the composer and of Art of the Mind, and the original score is all his. And I was very honored to have him score the film.
All right, so Mariano.
Oh my God.
I knew you were good. I knew you were good, but when I listened to the score, because I listened to the film, first I just watched the film. Then I went through and I looked at the different points of the film, different kinds of things, why they were in the scene, and the efficacy of how they were framed out and all of that, because I love film and this is what I do. And then I listened to the sounds that were first coming in, and as it ebbed and flowed like waves, as we were talking, that she wanted that kind of ebb and flow. And I got myself caught up in just listening to the sounds. And so now we are going to go to the next part of this. This is called the making of the art of the mind. And again, please, humor me as I go through this and make sure that I get it going again. Wait a minute. Let me. Where am I at? Lots of things to press. All buttons are checked. Here we go. Maybe.
Hi, this is Mariano Saulino, film composer for Art of the Mind. Art of the Mind is a thriller drama. It's about the mysteries of the mind and the art, as a kind of edge between 2 worlds. I get a call from my friend, actress Kathleen Swenson. She let me know she has this short film in progress, which is very special to her. It's a film about her mother, Mary Ellen Reese, who was a pianist who suffered of a mental illness.
Known for her unique and fascinating way of viewing the world, her art has intrigued many critics and fans alike.
Previously to having the spotting session, the producers briefed me about the film. They said it's a drama, but with a touch of a sci-fi thriller mood here and there. They would like the score to have this kind of Twilight Zone retro vibe to it. So once I saw the film, I'm thinking, the thriller, mysterious mood, absolutely. But at the same time, I find it very emotional too. So right there, I thought this, sci-fi vibe mood should be blended or driven by an emotional force. So right there, I choose the piano. So on, the story goes like this. A few days later, I'm at my studio writing the score for Art of the Mind. I'm working on it, and I get an email from the producers letting me know they have found a few piano score sketches composed by Marilyn Reese and written by herself. They said if I like to use any of this in the score, it could be so cool, for the film. And on the other hand, it could be so nice for Kathleen, for the producer, as they were written by her mother. I have never did something like that, but let's give it a chance. Could be interesting. Why not? I'm excited. I thought it could be an interesting experience using these short piano pieces as a trigger, to write the cues for the film. So I start going through Mary Ellen's piano pieces. I find out that just a few ones have a melody line, and they were pretty short also. Some of them didn't even have a lead line. So they were just like short comping ideas for piano. Then an idea came to my mind. I thought, what if I write the cues as if we were working together, as if we were composing together in the present? I was like, okay, Mary, we have this chord progression written by you. How about this lead line for it? I'm liking it. Now we got this fully fleshed piano piece. I said, okay, great. Now let's orchestrate it for film. Let's take it to the scoring level, following the acting, following the story. Okay, now I'm going through the different piano pieces, carefully transcribing the measures that could be suitable for the film, labeling each one, for such and such mood. This one would be for the opening, this one could work for the end titles, another one for a darker scene, another one for an emotional scene, and so on. Regarding the orchestration, as this is a short film, I decided to go with a pretty small instrument palette. I used piano, vibes and celesta, string quartet, harp, a few tuned percussion instruments, and just a few retro keyboards such as Mellotron, and a few retro sound effects such as, for example, reversed tape. I composed a few phrases and I put them in reverse, imitating that kind of tape sound. Well, in closing, this was such an adventure, because it was really magic to have her feedback, with this music for me to get inspired and write a score. So we got every piano piece Mary Ellen had written in the past, now reborn as a film score, written in her future, in her present. Well, that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed Art of the Mind. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
fabulous. Absolutely, like fabulous. Now, give me a second. I'm still hearing music. I'm liking the vibe though. Uh-oh. Ah. I'll figure it out. Just give me a minute. I can't pick. You know what? I'm gonna leave that hang there. I'm not gonna touch any more buttons. Don't be doing that. Yeah, that's a lot of emotionally driven music. It's emotionally driven acting. It's emotionally driven. All of the things that you would find in the art of the mind.
Yeah, this is so special. I was watching, I was like, this is one of my beloved ones, definitely. Projects, really, really. And it's a dream come true for a composer because you have everything, you know. It's so colorful in terms of tones. I was watching, I was saying to me, this was so fun because everything is right there, you know. I just follow the acting and the story, and it's like the notes are there for me waiting, you know, to be just to be taken to the light, you know, to life. But it was so inspiring to me because of a lot of reasons. And one thing I also love a lot is the color.
Yes,
you know?
so colorful.
So colorful. That's information to me, you know, for the music. That's another thing, Kathleen. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is, I always felt that this film has like two sides of the coin, okay? The one which is her world in her mind, and the exterior of the reality. As far as we know what reality is. All of us. All reality, okay? So, and that was so inspiring to me because it was like, okay, this is going to be sunny, cute, elegant, you know, with a lot of swing to it, you know, and the other world darker, mysterious, suspenseful, and also this idea that Kathleen and Marshall brought to the project about that kind of retro vibe they wanted to have. It's input, you know. This project is maybe 50% to me at most, is 50% what a composer should do and 50% what the input is bringing to the composer. Because input, let's talk about input. It's like an instrument, you know, for me. Because when you said, what about Twilight Zone, all that stuff, and later on, I think we should tell the audience the piano scores I received. That was a surprise for Kathleen because her husband was the one who found the piano pieces. So he sent that material to me, and their producer, the main role actress, didn't know nothing about that until I finished. Oh, that was mind blowing to her, I know. So it was so much fun to me doing this project, and now I'm watching this today, and I really dig all the love I put to it, and all the love you guys put to it too. So that was a kind of feedback. We give feedback to each other to create, and I really you know, sometimes I think, okay, I know what I have to do as a composer. I know my work. I know nothing, you know. After Art of the Mind, I completely sure I know nothing, because, you know, working with all these piano pieces and say, okay, I have to work from here to here. I cannot play this note, this or no, this, no, this is what I have to do. And that was a challenge. And that brought me a lot of, you know, things I really didn't know I could come up with, you know. It was a learning experience to me, absolutely.
I brought Silvina
Yes. Hi.
on too. So now I want everybody else to kind of zip it so I can hear her, and give us a little bit of your background, because it is fascinating.
Well, I'm a production coordinator.
That's okay.
Most of my experience before was because I was working and still do in national television in Argentina. And so I got a lot of background doing what matters in order with music, plays in media, from the composing moment to the moment that you have to place in the documentation, and then what it takes to collect the performance rights from the musician. So it's a whole broad branch that you have to take care of many different things. And also now that we are focused in films in the States most, I have a lot of experience talking to the directors, making meetings, coordinating.
What goes into, you know, because I'm always about what's going on behind the scenes. What's going on there? Not, I mean, it's nice. You get a pretty face and you get some good acting or some good, you know, whatever it is going on the screen. But what's going on behind this thing to make it like this so you can do this?
Well,
what do you got to put into it?
I think there are two different things. The most important that Mariano said before, it was input and a lot of effort for everybody to put everything together with respect, with a lot of good communication, trying to be as focused as they can in order to get a good product, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a two ways of communication.
There's got to be a symbiosis going on with that thing, because if there's not, there's a disconnect.
Yes, if the director or the producer, they cannot express their idea of what they want exactly, or what they might be, what it may be, we are all individuals with different ideas of what we can do for anything. So as long as we have good communication about expectations and about what kind of film I want to make and what kind of a climax I want you to give to my film.
The tone. That word.
Yes. So
yeah.
In particular with this film, we had a very, very good communication, because right now we are a team with Kathleen and Marshall. So we got along together before, we have experience, so we know how to ask, we know, I mean, we communicate very well. So it's a teamwork, you know, not only for production communicator and Mariano, but also with the film director and producers.
So let's talk a little bit about the film director and the producer, because I don't want to leave them out. They'll be like, hey, why don't you talk about me? Because nobody wants to be left out.
Yeah, but every project is a different universe, you know.
Yeah.
You ain't telling me. Oh. So let's talk about the director. How did you pick the director, and what were their credentials before you did that?
So the director's name is Neil Valdez, and I knew him from past projects. He's also a cinematographer, and the films that I had worked with him in the past, there was a short, well, there were several, but let's say I had worked with him on 3 different films in the past, and he did those in capacity as the cinematographer. Okay. And so for this one, I was like, it's a short. He knows what I want to do, because we had a lot of communication about this beforehand. And I said, hey, Neil, I have this, the script, read it, see if you want to be the cinematographer for this. So he read it and he said, oh yeah, I want to do this. And so then some time went on, and we did some scouting and different things like that, found all our locations. And I was like, why don't you just direct it too? Because he's already there behind the camera. It's a short, it's not like it's a feature. And I asked him, what do you think about this? And he's like, yeah, I can do it. And he did. He did an amazing job. So, and it was nice because I have that comfort level with Neil and trust, because we've done a number of films prior to this one. So like I say, a lot of the success of this, I think, was because we had all worked together previously, everywhere from the director all the way to the composer, Mariano, so I think that was a big part.
Is there like a set designer? Yeah.
Yes. So our set designer is Roxy Trino, which I had also worked with on some numerous films. She helped stage the tea room and get all that ready, and then she also did a lot of work in the institution. We did a lot of work for the institution prior to filming. It's Jim Burleson's hotel in Socorro, and it's Valverde Historic Hotel. And we were like, wow, this is perfect for the time period that we were trying to portray. But there were some rooms that weren't ready, so we had to get the room painted. He had old beds that fitted, so she did we put the beds together. She even made the section of the window that the character Mary looks through, got all that. I mean, Roxy's amazing. She's amazing.
The cat. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about what I'm going to do after all this is done. I'm going to take that picture of that cat, because I got a picture of the cat going on. I don't know if I put it. I think I put one in here. I've got I have someone that keeps sending me information on my something or other, and I know what the name is, and you know what the name is. Will you please stop? Because it's like all this dinging is not good for my mind right now. Just saying, it's not. I don't have the cat. All right. I don't know where the cat got to, but that cat's going on my computer. I'm going to put it on the screen for our screensaver or something. Tell me about the cat.
Okay.
I want to know about the cat.
Okay, so the cat's name is Lenny. At the beginning of the movie, when she's in her studio, that whole place is my friend, her name's Rachel, and she let us use this location. This is actually her home and her studio. That's all her artwork. And that is her cat. And I asked permission ahead of time. I was like, we need a cat. And she says, well, I have one other cat. He's not going to let you hold him or anything, but Lenny will let you. And so that is also her cat, and he got to be part of our movie.
I have the picture of the cat, and I can't let that go. So I've got to find it. So I need someone to have a little fill time. Tell me a little bit something more about this film that you would like people to know about. Like awards, that's kind of important.
Okay.
Give me that.
Okay. I'm glad I wrote them down.
Thank you.
So our executive producer is Marshall DeBerry, and he graciously helped fund this film. And without him, this also wouldn't be a reality. So thank you, Marshall, very much. So I talked to Marshall about, hey, should we enter this in some film festivals? Yes. And so, we did. And where's my list? So, and then I also talked to Mariano, because we had done some other films that had won awards as well. And that's Lenny. But
yeah. Cat.
So yeah.
Meow.
So, meow. So yeah, so I think we've just some of the ones that I was really happy with. We did the Los Angeles Film Awards. We got honorable mention for drama. Mariano for Los Angeles Independent Films was the finalist for Best Original Score. Yeah. So we were super excited about that. And we had semi-finalists Best Drama for that. I don't know, do you want me to name them all or okay? So Prestigious Los Angeles Monthly, we did semi-finalist narrative short. Los Angeles Film Awards semi-final as drama. We were nominee for Kane's film. Prestigious honorable mention. This one was really nice. The Los Angeles Prestigious, we're finalists for the top 15 films. So
that's like completely totally awesome.
I have one you don't know, LA Short Awards Best Score last week. So this is a surprise. Yeah.
Yay! Yeah, baby. Mariano's rocking it. He's got like 3 awards on this for score already.
That's why people want to know how I pick people to be on this thing. Let me tell you, that's how I do it. I don't know. I got some goofiness trying to, I don't know where. Trust me, if you saw this side of the fence, you would be like, I had this big box that came onto my screen. I don't know from where, and it had a bunch of stuff on there I've never seen before. And I'm like, I'm in charge here. I think maybe no. I know it's a cat. I'm gonna get the cat.
Nice pick.
That's my mascot now. I'm sorry. That's just the way it's gonna be. We're gonna make some memes out of this. Yeah, the cat. All right. So I might even get him some. What they get a meow mix or something like that. What does he like to eat? No, I'm serious. I'm gonna get the cat some like something, It's all right. Let me. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I need to queue up my next guest, and so right now we're at the 10:55 mark, and so what I would like. Let's see, we started with Kathleen, so we are going to go to Mariano, and please let's give me some of those social media links, please. And thank you.
You're asking me?
Yep.
I don't know nothing, about
Can you get this guy to do the thing I need him to do? I mean, can you do that for me? I mean, some extra meow mix or some catnip or something. I don't know.
My friend, I absolutely overbooked trying to write scores. So just look for Mariano Saulino if you want to know something about my work.
All right, you know what, Silvina? Where can I find out more about this guy? you know, or anybody else, somebody else? The cat might want to know.
Oh my God.
I'm
What's the
all
cat's
over
name again?
all over
Was
the
it
place.
Lindsay? Lenny? Lenny?
Enough. That's
Lenny.
enough.
Come on, come on, come on.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to know something over here on social anything.
Yeah.
Everybody, you got everything there. IMDb, YouTube channel, social media, everything.
Well, that's
Have
for me,
fun.
but these people that are watching and the cat wants to know, you know, what they cat don't know.
No, I have an
Killing me.
Instagram
You're killing me,
account,
Smalls.
but I don't use it. But marianosaulino.com, that's
the main one.
that's the main one. Everything is there. Have fun, guys.
And so it's going to be on my YouTube page and all that. You know, we'll find that out. Kathleen, maybe you're a little bit more. Maybe now you had your time. You had your time to tell me. Now it's Kathleen's time. So we're
love
gonna.
internet, but I don't have time for you, internet. I have to write music.
I know, right? It's too busy doing that. I should have. It was my faux pas. What was I thinking? I don't. What was I thinking? You know.
That's exactly I like. You know.
What was I thinking?
Exactly.
Kathleen, please help me out with this. What are your social medias? And please, enunciate. And we need. It's a talk show, and the other people, they don't know. You know, they don't know, and the cat, the cat knows because it's a cat.
So if you want to see all the films that I've been in, I think for me currently IMDb is the best way. And it's just IMDb, Kathleen Swenson, and then my agent's in there, and Tina Presley, and all the films and photos, and it's just like a big resume basically. So IMDb is the best way if you want to kind of get all the information you need.
All right. We love your IMDb. Thank you.
Now he says it. I've lost control. I knew at some point I was going to lose control of this whole thing here.
That's Jackie right there.
Right.
You're amazing. You know, you're amazing.
Thank you for bringing us on too. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
What was it like for you to be on? I'm going to ask Kathleen because she's more articulate here right now. What was it like for you to be on Zombiepalooza Radio Live?
I enjoyed it. I was surprised because I didn't know you were going to show the film and the making of. So that was a nice surprise too. So thank you for that. But and anytime I can be a part of what Mariano's doing, I'm happy. So
you guys are. I can see you guys.
You're amazing too, Kathleen. Thank you.
You're amazing.
Yeah. No, you're amazing.
No, you're amazing.
The cat's amazing. The cat.
Our egos are going to explode. You know.
Silvina, you're amazing for putting up with this. Oh my God. How do you do it? We have to have tea or something. Wine.
He's the one that stands behind the composer, and she's the one that she makes everything happen to me. You know, everything.
Thank you. I like the cat.
The cat, I don't know. Right now, I'm thinking the cat's a little sus, but you know, it's a thing.
Loves animals. There I am.
I appreciate you so much. So I am now officially in my 4th hour, and we are going to be talking with Ed Smith, and he is an illustrator, and he's very, very good at what he does. You guys are welcome to hang out, or you're welcome to go, because I know you have stuff and things, and I want the cat to stay for a little bit.
Well, I'm going to sign off. I just want to thank you so much for having me on, and thanks Mariano for bringing me on and letting Jackie know about all of this. So it was fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so now we're going to go on with our, like I said, our 4th hour, and we have Ed Smith with us. Ed Smith, please tell us who you are and what it is you do.
I'm a cartoonist, comic book artist. I draw cartoons, draw comic books, but I have a really interesting professional and personal upbringing and background that really loans itself to drawing comics and drawing cartoons.
Currently bringing up your email that you sent out, and thank you so much for sending it back. I appreciate
no
you.
sweat.
All right, so your latest work is a sci-fi martial arts epic, but I don't want to do that one right now.
Your show.
I want to do these talking points. Everyone can draw.
Everyone.
When I go to start doing something creative, especially like shows and stuff, I will do my little doodles and all of that kind of stuff because it helps me get my brain set for the thing that I am going to do. But it's drawing, but it's drawing to what some people would look at it and go, this is a bunch of aimless, what the heck are you doing? You got 15 million things going over here. I draw, lines and little asterisks and all that, but that's about the extent of my drawing. I have traced some things. Is tracing drawing?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us for the back, people in the back, that please, and
Tracing
elaborate.
is absolutely drawing. There's a really good illustrator and comic book artist by the name of Alex Toth, and he always said, never draw anything that you can't copy. Never copy anything that you can't cut and paste, and never copy and paste anything that you can't just trace.
Copying is one way that young people, especially young people, start to learn how to draw.
That's
and
exactly how I learned.
When I do a little bit more than just a little, that kind of thing, but nothing I show publicly. People who have decided that they need something else to do, they can copy too, because
Absolutely.
copying shows them the little bit of the insight into the illustrator's idea of how they wanted to put something together. Talk a little bit about that.
What copying does is it allows you to understand the mindset of the artist you're trying to emulate. It also gives you an idea as to how to replicate that technique and how to use it in the future. It's a lot like musicians. When musicians are taught scales or they're given sheet music from other composers and they're taught to play, they understand the timing, they understand the notes to hit, they understand exactly how to make the sounds that are supposed to sound like the sheet music that they've been given. Now, when it comes to illustration, it's the same thing. It's no different. Well, the outcome is different when it's a cartoonist versus a fine artist, but the methods are still the same. It's like you said, you copy what you like and what you see, and it teaches you how to do that. And I would do that when I was a kid. I would copy comics, I would copy cartoons, and a fine art student, they're sent off to a museum and they're told to replicate what the masters have done. They're told to draw and paint what they see on the walls. So
when do you think that your own personal self-expression started to develop?
I think when I was about 13 or 14. I've always been kind of sarcastic. So my visual jokes were a lot of in-jokes with me and my friends. So that in itself, allowed me to express myself. You know, it was, hey, take a look at this, and my friends would get the joke. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more experience, and I've understood that those inside jokes need to kind of be spread out so that everybody else can get the joke and understand what's going on.
You're writing a strip, and so you're writing a strip, and there's maybe, I don't know, 4 to 6 blocks in that little strip, just that one piece.
Yep.
Walk me through each block and how you would go for your process. Like, what do you need to have before you do this? Is there some kind of auditory that you need a stim from, or is there some sort of film, or, you know, give me that seed. What is it?
A strip is a lot different than a comic book. See, a comic book gives you a larger area to stretch out the story and to get from point A to point B. Whereas a comic strip, you only have a couple of squares, and you have to set it up, you have to supplement it, and then you have to make the joke pay off. Now, depending upon what it is, if it's action, horror, comedy, you have to bring it within those confines. You have to establish the story, you have to bring it to a dramatic climax, and then you have to bring it to a conclusion. Now, what you want to do is within those squares, within those panels, you want to use the best images you could possibly use in order to supplement the purpose of those panels. You want to understand, and I'm sure Mariano will understand, where you have to know where to place the camera in order to get the effect that you want across to your reader. In this case, the camera is just going to be my reader's eye, and where I need to place the reader's eye in order to illustrate and highlight what the panel is supposed to do, the purpose of it.
All right, so I'm looking for, let's see, what am I going to bring here? This is an interesting one.
Oh no, that's not mine.
This one's not?
No, ma'am.
Oh, you know who this one is?
It looks good, but that's not mine.
I know who it is. And I was going to try and do a thing for you, but that thing didn't work out.
That's okay. I'm still flattered that you thought that was mine.
And I got a lot of stuff going on over here.
That's cool.
Oh, here.
Yep.
That's yours, but it's not
very interesting.
I can't get it big enough to but let's discuss the coloring on here. A lot of subject matter gets talked about film and placements of this, that's, and the others, but I enjoy the color and the coloration aspects of film and different qualities of different modalities when using color. So let's talk about your character. Let's talk about why you chose these particular colors, and you got the floor.
Okay, well, this cover here, it's for a 4-issue series that Ben Goldsmith wrote, and he chose me to illustrate it. It's called Second Place, and it's about an intergalactic bodybuilding competition. And the character that you're seeing here, his name is Ferrig, and he owns his own gym. Now, the whole 4-issue series is about how Ferrig used to win first place at these competitions, and his friend Army shows up, and Army used to get second place. Now, the story is that Army left the competition circuit and became a big action movie star, and he's famous. Wherever he goes, he gets recognized. And Ferrig stayed, and he created his gym and trained people who would win the competitions every year. And he had a family. He got a wife. He got a son. But secretly, Army always wanted to have the family life that Ferrig had, and Ferrig always wanted the rich fame that Army had. So when I spoke to Ben about this cover, because this specifically is what's called a dealer variant, it's when the comic publishers can offer up specific covers to specific comic book shops. What it does is the incentive is people will come in and buy the book at that store, and hopefully they'll buy other books. But when I spoke to Ben about the dealer variant for this cover, Ben had suggested that I look into the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary movie from the 70s, Pumping Iron.
Yes.
So I started looking up film stills from that. So the pose here is actually Arnold Schwarzenegger in the gym. So I just mimicked that pose and kept a lot of the anatomy because it was recognizable. And what I wanted to do was to focus on Ferrig here in the foreground. So I made the background dark, but not too dark. I wanted it to be comfortable and not horrific or, moody. The foreground, I wanted Ferrig to look shiny as if he's going into competition. So you'll see a lot of the light reflection on the shoulders and in the hair. And I wanted it to look warm and comfortable. So I gave it a little bit of a haze. Now, as for the green skin, Ferrig is an alien and he has 4 arms, but that's his skin color. It's that green there that you see.
Fabulous. All right, now let me see if I can get myself out of the little moving along.
Oh, and just so I can be clear, I
Sure.
don't want to take credit where I am not due credit. This entire coloring was done by my wife.
Yes.
Yep.
And
I
will she be for a hot minute joining us?
Unfortunately not. She's with Little Nemo in Slumberland right now.
I get that. I understand that. Now, I am hoping that all of these grabs that I've got are yours. I'm looking at a very, very, like how pinpoint tiny pictures.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what I got right now. So
Well, yeah. That cover there.
Let me get out of the way.
Second place is the first time that my work has been published by an independent publisher for a sequential story. So the problem that comes along with that is that if people see my artwork on the shelf as the cover, they might not be inclined to purchase it. So what Ben and I discussed and agreed upon was that we would get a friend of ours to do the covers. These covers are done by Jay Fosgitt, and Jay Fosgitt is an amazing cartoonist. He's also a friend of mine, and I always ask him for advice, and I ask him what he thinks, and he's more or less a mentor as well as a friend. That cover there, that's she's holding a character by the name of Butterfinger. He's in the book. He's just a big foot, which is why in the background, Jay decided to put an alien version of Quentin Tarantino, because the rumor is that Tarantino has some sort of foot thing. But Jay is just hilarious when he cartoons. But the covers are all Jay Fosgitt.
I am looking for, you did a composite of a bunch of your covers on like all one piece. I think I popped that up in the front. So
yes, ma'am.
I'm looking for that again. There it is. I'm hoping it's yours. Ah, there it is. All right. So I want to go, and I would like to start from here and go over and then down and over. And you have the floor. Go ahead.
All right. Top left. That's the first cover by Jay Fosgitt. That's issue number 1. We got 2 artists to do the covers. Both of them are well known. Jay Fosgit and Rob Guillory. Rob Guillory is an artist that had his own series called Chew. It was about a detective that worked for the FDA, and he could find out how people were murdered by actually tasting a piece of the body. It was insane. It was like the whole premise is really out there, but it's just a great, great book. Like the visuals and the way Rob set up his story is just amazing. Below that is Poppy and Poe. It's the Ominous Adventures of Poppy and Poe. That was a series created by Caesar Crawford. Caesar Crawford, and I think Sammy Glow wrote that issue, but that was actually my first variant cover. They approached me and asked me if I'd do a cover for their book, and I absolutely took the opportunity and jumped right in. Right next to that it's what's called an ash can comic issue. It's a character that me and a friend of mine by the name of Rich Woodall, we worked on for years, and we put that together, and it's basically just regular copy paper folded in half. Let's see, right next to the Rob Guillory picture is issue 2. That's on the top row. Issue 2 of Second Place, that is Jay Fosgit's cover, and it's more or less an homage to the Mad Max movies. It's supposed to be a movie poster of one of Army's movies. Right below that is the dealer variant that we just talked about. That was, I used Pumping Iron as the source for reference. Top right corner is issue 3 of Second Place. Again, another cover by Jay Fosgit, beautifully done with Tarantino in the low right corner. Right below that is Mayhem. I can't remember the name because it's at the end of the day and I've got a lot going on, but that is an independent book called Hellpug and Velocicock. That cover is actually my artwork. It's supposed to take place in hell, and that dinosaur that you can see is half rooster and half velociraptor, and there's also a pug that's in there. So it's about a mission that they're on in hell to go find like the queen of hell, and it's a cartoony style book that really led me to want to do more realism and action. But yeah, that's pretty much all the books there.
Pretty cool. And a great job putting all that composite together, because when and we're going to just use this for a teaching tutorial, when you're sending photos into the show, we really need them to be on the horizontal, because if they're not, then they end up getting cut off and all that.
Yeah.
And some of these works are like, they're really, really important to be viewed. So we had you like lay them out, the actual pieces themselves, and put them together, and you did a fabulous job.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back over to your, there you go, your questions. What do you look for motivation and inspiration to do your work?
It really depends on what I'm looking for. I always take into account what the scene calls for and the mood that I'm trying to set. So Disney put out a documentary a while ago, and it was called Frank and Ollie. And it was about 2 of the greatest character animators that Disney ever had. And they more or less animated and did a lot of facial expressions and made the characters emote through postures and motion. And I watched that and I just gobbled it right up, and I loved it. And in that, when I draw cartoons and comics, I do go into it with the mindset that potentially this could get turned into an animated show. Like this could get turned into a piece of animation. So when I draw something, I try to use posture, I try to use facial expressions, I try to set things up as if it were an animated show. So if I go into something and it's supposed to be funny, I'll listen to music that's goofy, that's energetic, because it'll get me wound up and it'll get me to the point where I'm going to draw cartoons. If I'm going to draw something that's adventure or like a fight scene, I'll listen to angry music, or I'll listen to like orchestral music that are like John Williams scores or things along those lines. If I'm going to do horror, I tone it down and I listen to like spooky music, or I watch a little bit of like horror shows that are online. But I usually motivate myself through that source material.
Now, Mariano, now you know why I wanted you, why I placed what the people where I placed them, because it's kind of like, you know.
Oh, I noticed that. I noticed that at the beginning.
So give me something of what he's saying. Reflect on that piece. Would you, Mariano, please?
Yeah, it's the thing about being creative, which is not only, you know, the creation by itself, but the pre-production you do for yourself, like getting inspired with, for example, like Ed said, with music. And the only thing that is, I write music, so I have to listen to other music to write music. But yeah, but for example, in this short film, the colors of the film told me something about the tone I was going to use for the music. For example, you know, there is something a bit basic, like a minor chord may suggest something dark, and a major chord may suggest you something, you know, brighter. So the colors in a film for us composers tell us a few things too, you know, that's input too for us, everything that happens, you know. And we are here to you know, to serve the story, like it's job too. You have to tell the story, you know. Maybe you would like to draw, you know, something big, but or colorful, but the story doesn't need that. So you have to draw something according to the story. With the music is something similar in a way, because as composer, we are not supposed to write our music, but music for the story.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Would you like to reflect on what he just said, Ed?
Well, what Mariano said at the beginning about prep and getting ready to do what you're creating, I don't think I stress that enough. But for non-creative people, I'd like them to understand sometimes it's a switch, but it's not always a switch. Like sometimes it just happens like that, but most times you really have to put yourself in the mood. You can't just sit down and create. Non-creatives, I don't think they understand that. They just expect, oh, you're a machine. You get paid to do this. Sit down. It's too easy. No, it's not too easy. This is the byproduct of over 30 years of me sitting with a pen in my hand and learning how to place a camera, how to draw a line, how to place a color. Like people just assume that it's like Jiffy Lube. Yeah, you can just drop your paper off with me and you'll get a masterpiece in 20 minutes. That's not how it works.
Absolutely not. I was talking with Mariano earlier this afternoon about the amount of hours that I have put into just the production of this show. How many? I'm just curious. I'm going to throw this out there. I usually don't ask questions like this, but I feel like I want to do that. Ed, how many hours do you think it takes to produce a 5-hour show?
it depends on what the deadline is. But I would assume that every waking moment up until that deadline, you use in order to produce that 5-hour show.
I put in about 25 hours into just doing this one 5-hour show. Because
Geez,
that's,
and we started talking on Monday, so
I know, yeah. So you know.
yeah.
So, all right. So enough about me. We're going to go over to this is really cool production that you did. So I asked you in your email what project or projects you have made advancements in, and you gave me a very cool answer. Of course, most of your answers are pretty cool, but this one's pretty cool. So give me that.
I believe the answer I gave in the email was second place. This is a really epic story. When I started second place, no one really knew. Ben approached me at a comic book convention, and we had kind of bumped into one another as I was walking by his table one day. And I guess we kind of hit it off, and we knew the same people. So Ben approached me and said, hey, I have a project that I'm getting ready to do that I think you might want to be a part of. And he told me the premise was basically it's an alien bodybuilding competition that's being done in the vein of The Office. And I said, stop, I'm in. Because it's automatically, it's aliens, it's bodybuilding, it's a comedy that's being done through like a mockumentary lens. Yeah, I'm there, I'm in. Well, I started drawing it, and Ben was really happy with what I was producing. And then I had a medical emergency. I tore a mitral valve in my heart, and I had to get my valve replaced. And this was sometime where I was in the middle of issue 2. So I was in the hospital, and I came out, and I really wanted to get to work on this, but for some reason I just couldn't. Like, my emotional state was very depressed, and I had zero energy. Well, I'm a smart guy, and I love to troubleshoot problems when I have them. So I started looking it up online, like, why am I suffering from this depression? And it turns out that there's this medical anomaly that when people have open heart surgery, which is what they did, they cracked open my sternum and replaced it, but I don't want to get too gory. They suffer from a specific post-operative depression. And I talked to Ben about this. And Ben said something to me that actually motivated me, and I'm carrying with me to this day, and I use it to stoke the flame of my creation. I talked to him, and I was like, Ben, I'm going through this, and I'm really sorry, but this is what's going on, and I'm just feeling so depressed. And Ben's a funny guy. So what he said to me in a really meaningful fashion that kind of sounds like he was being a jerk, but he wasn't. What he said to me was something along the lines of, yeah, it must be really sad for you to be so depressed and only have your artistic ability to use as an outlet. And it just, everything clicked after he said that to me. It was like, yeah, I kind of have a responsibility to my mental health now to use that as an outlet. And once I processed that and kept drawing, things just got better. They got better and better and better. The pages looked better. I understood the characters better. I understood where they would be, how to draw them, what their expressions would be, what they could be doing in the background. And it just, the issues start out, and then they just get comparatively better. And I found that across the script, it actually worked well with the story, because as the artwork got better, the relationship between Ferrig and Army got tons better. And by the end of the book, everything looked so crisp and clean and lovely. And that's the way everything gelled. The conflict was resolved. I mean, that's how most stories end. You know, there's a dramatic climax, conflict, and then the resolution. But that's what happened. But everything worked. And I feel that that is going to be one of my greatest triumphs, is starting really slow at, an unskilled, or well, not unskilled, but a lower skill level, and reaching a higher skill level when I got to the end.
You got your color back.
I did.
You got your color back. That's I'm not going to have the discussion I'm going to have with you right now.
Why not?
I'll have that later.
Okay.
Because yeah, if I go down that rabbit hole, that's nobody's going to want to see that. But maybe they will. But I don't know. It's not for right now.
Okay.
I don't want to take away from your steam. So yeah, everything that he just said there, right there, is fabulous. It's truthful. It is impactful. If you're getting to a point where you feel like there's nothing left, it's just about that point where you're right there to bust down the damn door. You're right there, but you need to have something or someone to spark that. And it's not always that there is a someone or something to do that. Sometimes it comes from an outside source. This show is based on that concept of, okay, so you're a creative and you're into indie and you like to do films and books and music and all of this other stuff, and you need some kind of spark to help you. It's right here. This is what this is. It's defined by that. And so on that note, I'm going to go back over to your email and yeah, so be supportive, be kind to yourself, listen to your gut about things, but sometimes your head's telling you some goofy stuff. How do you get rid of the goofy stuff that plays in your head while you're creating?
I have
how you
a
do
really eclectic background. And as a professional, I went to school for graphic design. And when I got out, some of my first jobs were doing page layout for textbook composition houses. So I had to make books for college and high school level students. Well, one summer when I first got this job, they made me take manuscripts, and the manuscripts were all Greek philosophers. And I had to edit them and place them on pages and make sure that the footnotes corresponded to what was on the page. And one of the philosophers was Socrates. I learned a lot about the Socratic method, where you consistently ask yourself why to get to the root cause of something.
Yes.
So if I don't feel a certain way, I ask myself why. And I try to understand why I feel that way. And usually once I understand why, I can work around that. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as the motivation and trusting your instincts go, I had the pleasure of going to the Frank Frazetta Museum last weekend in, I think it's Stroudsburg, but it's in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
And it's actually on Frank Frazetta's land. If you take a look at the museum, it looks as though it was this old studio right next to his house. But I went in and I spoke to his son, and I was talking about technique and inspiration and what used to be done. And across the conversation, I was given the impression that Frank Frazetta just had a natural instinct that took him places. And he just did what his heart felt artistically. And it made me feel like for most of my life, I hadn't really paid attention to that instinct. See, my instinct was just to draw goofy cartoons and to grow from there. And I just really didn't, because society, parents, responsibilities kind of told me that I really needed a job. I needed to take responsible jobs. I needed to do things that would pay the bills and take care of my family. And none of that included taking care of what I wanted and making myself happy. And as a creative, that is the worst possible thing you can do, because your instincts will start to fail you after a while. And you'll definitely feel like you're on the outside looking in. You'll just feel like, the best way I can explain it is for people to watch that Pixar movie Soul.
Yes.
He explained being a creative in that movie, and it brought a lump in my throat and a tear in my eye. I was like, that is exactly what it's like to be a creative. And I can't remember what his monologue was offhand right now, but I remember watching it and thinking, finally, somebody gets it and they put it into a movie. But that's exactly what it's like when you don't pay attention to your instincts and listen to your heart. You just, it just kills you really slowly.
Absolutely. All right, now we're gonna get to the cool stuff, cooler stuff. Your latest work. Your latest work is a sci-fi martial arts epic under the title Warrior Soul Pilgrim Malonex. It's a departure from the cute, funny cartoons that you normally draw. It's violent, dramatic, and done in an action style that is that most folks lean towards when they think of comics. So what
Okay.
makes your work so unique?
Okay. This book, I think when I mentioned Hellpug and Velocicock, that I talked about how it made me want to draw in a more realistic action style. Well, I was approached by a guy by the name of Alex Cayazzo, and he asked me whether or not I'd be interested in doing this, and he described the premise and asked me to do a couple of tryout sketches for him, and I did, and he was very happy with the result. Now, the book itself is called Warrior Sword Pilgrim Malonex, and what it is it's a story about a guy who's part of a dynasty whose father really betrayed the kingdom. And so he was outcast, and now he's kind of on a pilgrimage to become a better warrior, to go back and rule the kingdom that his dad kind of left a bad taste in him. Now, it does get violent, and there are some bloody and gory scenes, which I appreciate as an artist because I really didn't draw those in cartoons. But, you know, now in this comic, I'm drawing them, and I'm taking a lot of action and drama and camera placement into the panel layouts and the pages themselves. And the way Alex has written this and the way that I draw it, they both work together to tell a really epic tale. It's incredible. Like, I never would have assumed that I could do something along those lines, but here I am. And when I say that it's what most people lean towards as an action style, it is. I use a couple of different techniques that most comic books use when they're drawing like superheroes or, you know, fantasy artwork. However, I still stick with the notion that someday this might be turned into an animated series. So everything looks fluid. There's a lot of stretch and squash. I use facial technique, facial expressions. I use poses. I use light and dark and color. And I'm really happy with what I got going on.
Super cool. Mariano, would you like to chime in with what he just said?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about input, you know, because the creative process, I was listening to it and how it's so important for us artists to work on thinking on what we would like to create before we create. You know, it's a process that is so common between different disciplines in the art. And also what he was saying about thinking about if this character is going to become, you know, an animated series is something similar for when we score a short film that can in the future become a feature film. So when we write the themes and develop the cues and the ideas, we have to think that we would need maybe to extend those ideas to bigger orchestration or longer, you know, themes. And we have to think sometimes like an architect, that You say, okay, this is the house, but maybe we are going to get it bigger in the future. We're going to expand it. So it's so tricky because drawing, writing music, we have a lot of things in common in how we think about the structure of what we are building. So very interesting.
Yes. So you say that the strongest attribute as a creative is to take what you know and to produce something that you can feel as well as enjoy and recognize and learn from the process. But what has this process taught about you?
How
yourself?
How much this process tells about me?
Well, I'm gonna then. Okay, so you want to chime in on that one? I will take that. I will let you think about that, and I'm gonna go to Ed, and I'm gonna ask him the question first. And while you think about what you're going to say, what has your process taught about you?
My process has taught me that I'm a lot more skilled than I allow myself to think I am. There's always that nagging thought process of what other people's opinions might be. And it's allowed me to just not even care at some point. It just allows me to throw myself into the work and become more a slave to the work than what other people's opinions might be. I work more for what the book, the story, the scene, the page calls for, as opposed to what folks might say online, or how many likes I might get, or how many shares a post might get. I do things for the artwork rather than for everybody else.
Now that you've had some time to think about this process of what you're going to say, Mariano, what has your process taught you about you?
Oh, schedule, for example, deadlines. On my first years composing for advertising, for television shows, later on for filmmaking, I thought everything could be done maybe faster than I thought. And that was something I have to learn about myself, that maybe I needed more time, to develop an idea or something that was a bit against my own creation process, because you have to spend a lot of time producing and having also time to take some distance from what you have produced. Listen, there's a phrase that there's nothing better than listen to a mix fresh in the morning, something you mixed the night before, an arrangement you wrote the night before, and have a coffee the next morning and listening to it. That is something that is really great, and you have to have time for that. So what I really learned about myself is that I need time to create, and I need time to work on a pre-production, and I need time to read the story or see the acting, take some distance, go to the piano, write something, and go back to the film. So time is really, really a very, very useful tool when you know what do you need.
All right, so we have one of our youngest fans of Zombiepalooza Radio Live, and his name is Ethan. And Ethan wants to know, did you draw all that stuff? Did you do that? Ed, did you do that?
Ethan, I did most of it. The stuff that's at the top there, those covers weren't drawn by me, but the pages inside of the book, those were drawn by me. So I'd be lying if I said I did all of it, but I I did the interiors for all the books, and the covers were drawn by me at the books that are at the bottom there.
All right, so here is what I'm going to, and I'm hoping that you have them. Do you have one of these books in your handy dandy room?
Oh, God, yeah. Where did I put 'em?
And can you do a spread for me? Never thought I'd say that on my show. No, do a spread for me.
Yeah, sure. What is it you're looking for me to do?
I would like to have one of the ones that you worked on and have you open it up so that you can show the screen. I'm thinking that it will come out the way that I need it and it won't be backwards, but
You can always mirror it.
yeah, I'm hoping that it's going to work.
Okay, so
All right, Ethan.
This is issue 2.
Yes,
the
it's
cover's
working.
done by Jay Fosgit. This is what I was saying. Jay did the cover. However, oh wow, that's actually not a bad page. I did the interiors. So the interiors are all me. And I think they might have gotten somebody else to color it. But yeah, that's all my work.
Super cool.
I can find
That's a
other
great
pages if
shot.
you'd like.
Yeah, give me, you know, 2 or 3 other.
Oh, this is really good. Okay, so
I love show and tell.
this page here, it's the panels of the books are actually the documentary crew following them around. So this page here is when Army shows up to Ferrig's gym, and Ferrig's son Atlas is at the window and sees him, and he gets excited, and he gets so excited that he turns around and bumps into a camera person and knocks the camera down on the ground and cracks the lens. So it's kind of breaking the fourth wall, but it's still, I really like what I did there because I made it last for a couple more pages.
That's
just a
super
crack on the lens.
Kapow!
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the coloration. I love that. And the illustrations are fabulous.
Yeah, it's like I said, issue 1 was shaky, and then 2 got better, 3 got even better, and 4 is the best issue in the series, in my opinion. But they haven't put 4 on the shelves yet, so I don't have any copies.
Super cool. I hope Ethan liked that, and his mom Michelle is very appreciative. And well, I have special interest in them because, well, Michelle's my oldest daughter, and Ethan is my grandson.
Wow.
There's a first time for everything on this ZPR media. Woohoo! All right. Let's see, what else are we going to? All right. So cartoons, they're a great trick for your eye, and they can play you. Sure, you can look at them and think, hey, they're cute and silly, but there's a lot more deeper and personal stuff going on. Give me a little bit about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't understand the question.
Okay. So you say, as one of your talking points, cartoons are one of the greatest tricks your eye can play on you.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Sure.
I remember this. I
Sure.
remember
You can
why
look
I
at
wrote
them
this answer now.
and think they're
And
cute.
I hope you
silly.
get your history hats on, kids, because this is going to be interesting. Modern language in print is usually a series of letters. Those letters were more or less made so that people could communicate. Those letters kind of evolved from cave paintings. Cave paintings were just cavemen that used to draw cartoons on walls when they would come back from stuff that people in the tribe had done. Hunting, gathering, major events. They went and drew on the wall of the cave. They were early cartoonists. So people owe a lot to cartoonists. They just don't realize it. Now, when I say that my cartoons mean a lot, and it's just the way that I put kinetic energy into the line work. You can actually feel the emotion and the movement. And I'm proud of myself for being able to do that. And the reason why I can do that is because I study a lot of cartoons. I watch a lot of Disney stuff. I grew up on Hanna-Barbera cartoons. In fact, one of my earliest memories of drawn cartoons was watching Pixie and Dixie in the living room. And we had this old soft wood coffee table, and I had paper, and I drew Pixie and Dixie on the table. And I pushed way too hard with my pencil. And that table, if I can find it, I think it's at my dad's house, but if I take a look at that table, you can still see the indentation of Pixie and Dixie in that table.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like that. Like that a lot. All right. So let's see, what else do we have?
Sorry,
Well, go ahead.
we got to get going here.
Okay, that's right. You have a thing going.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us,
you.
and nice
You're
to
welcome.
meet you.
It was great to meet you, Mr. Saulino.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
I'll talk to you tomorrow or in a couple of days.
yeah.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
They're really amazing people.
Yeah, he is.
Absolutely. All right. So we're at that point now where I've asked you a lot of questions. I've gone through your email, and I've checked out all the stuff and things there that are very important to you. Is there any other questions that I have not asked you that you really want me to ask you?
You know what? I normally fail at this. I usually waffle. Oh no, it's your show. You can ask any questions you want. But the one question that no one asks me is, how did it all start and why do you keep doing it? Nobody's really asked me that. So
You
when
know
I
why
was-
I don't ask questions like that? Because, and I want you to answer, but
Oh,
I'm
I
going to give
will.
a caveat for it first,
Of course.
is that a lot of people say, oh, that's such a cookie cutter question. I don't want anybody to ask me that. And after doing interviews for almost 10 years, there are certain particular ones that I try to stay away from. But, we're breaking rules tonight. Please answer.
Okay. So when I was a little kid, my dad worked in a tool and die shop, and he worked a lot. So I would be with my mom. And this was way before I got to go to school. And some of my earliest memories of my mom were when we would sit at the kitchen table. And back when I was a kid, there were no plastic grocery bags. They were all paper. That's all you got was a paper grocery bag. Well, I come from a family where you used to keep those paper grocery bags because you never know when you'll need them. But mom, seeing that I was an energetic little kid, would always cut open the bags and spread them out on the kitchen table. And dad, working at a tool and die, would bring home all sorts of markers, and he would just leave them around the house. So here I am, a kid with paper bags and industrial markers in front of me. And my mom took to teaching me how to draw things that normally people do when they doodle, like the 3 circles that make up Mickey Mouse's head, or drawing a cube and then turning it into a house with like a curly Q and smoke. And that kind of became a happy time when I was a kid. I was spending time with my mom, and she was showing me how to do things. And it was just, I was really drawn to it. And my mom, she would take me to libraries and we would read books together, and she would take me to puppet shows, and I would be just blown away and entertained by those because I loved Sesame Street and I loved the Muppets. And I taught myself more or less how to draw because my mom sat down with me with a paper bag and taught me how to make Mickey Mouse's head, or she taught me how to make a house out of a cube. And it became a safe haven for me. So as I'm growing older, I'm drawing. Whenever things got tough, I drew. Whenever I was fidgety, I would draw. And all of these memories kind of stayed with me. And recently, a friend's mom passed away, and I helped him clean out the house. And we were going through her dresser, and at the bottom of the drawers were paper bags from the same grocery chain that my mom had cut open the bags and taught me how to draw on. And my friend knew right away that those bags were mine. He said, look, my mom would want you to have these bags. You need to take them. And if I can show you something, just give me a moment.
Sure.
I took the bag and I framed it. And I wrote a reminder to myself. It says, remember, it all started on this, eat the elephant. And what that means is it goes back to the expression that you eat the elephant one bite at a time. So it's meant to inspire me and make me understand that I haven't always had this talent. I was once a little boy who could only draw 3 circles on a grocery bag. So whenever I'm feeling impatient or I don't feel like I'm skilled enough, I just need to remember that I have to have patience and I have to eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Absolutely. What do you say to that? I mean, yes, absolutely. So what do you think about your first experience being on this show?
It's really interesting. I love the flow of things. I love how the guests don't seem to make sense and come together, but when the show is done and you think about it, oh yeah, that's right. They all came together. It all was inspirational creatives, and they were all in the field that could just all come together. It made sense.
Thank you. Okay, so right now we're at the point where I need to get your social media and all of that other fun stuff.
Well, if folks go to Instagram, they can find me at Cartoonist at Large. You just gotta use the little @ symbol. I think they call it an ampersand.
Yeah.
So at Cartoonist at Large. You can go on Facebook and you can find my art page, which is Ed Smith, Cartoonist at Large. And geez, what other social media do I have? I know I have a Twitter account. I'm not really heavy on my social media, but I will respond if people contact me and they want to talk to me. I'll absolutely respond.
That's
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Oh, and I also have a website. It's got examples of professional work as well as the cartoon stuff. That is cartoonistatlarge.com.
Cool beans. All right. So our last hour is going to be with Lisa Morton. And she is an author and paranormalist, and she does like 50 million other bazillion things too. And you are welcome to stay for this last hour, or if you have something that you need to do, you can feel free to go and release yourself from call. What would you like to do?
Well, I certainly appreciate the invitation, but I do have some things I have to get to, and I actually need to put this back up on the wall. So.
Cool beans. All right, I got all of that on there, and give me 1 second so I can properly say goodbye to you, because right now I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at
Lisa. I totally get it.
I'm not gonna like something. No, I'm not. I can't even see her yet. I'm just trying to get everything.
Hey, there she is.
Supposed to be.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
This lady is fantabulous. So, if you ever get a chance to go and look at some of her work, or give her a chat up, just say that, hey, I saw you on Zombiepalooza Radio Live. And I'm sure she'll be able to, take a few minutes out of her schedule to say, hey. Thank you.
Will.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for having me.
So much to you, Ed Smith, for bringing your works and bringing your inspiration, sharing your time with Mariano, and that feedback was fabulous. So I appreciate you so much. So good night, and have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks you. Bye. Woo! Go little rock star. That way. Wow. Wow. All right. I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting. She's just like, I don't know if I should stay or if I should go. I don't know. Wow. It's been a long time since we've actually had a chat. I've only spoke to you through like email and text and stuff like that before. So it's fabulous to have you on the show. And for those who do not know who you are or why I'm so excited about having you on, especially at this hour, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jackie. It's really fun to be here. It is still early in my area. It's a mere 9 o'clock, but thank you to everybody in the East Coast who's doing this at the midnight hour. That is awesome that you're here. I am Lisa Morton. I am a writer. I do fiction and nonfiction both. I've been a screenwriter in the past. I'm one of the world's leading experts on Halloween, and my most recent books include a fiction collection called Night Terrors and Other Tales, a nonfiction book called Calling the Spirits, A History of Seances, and a book I co-edited with Leslie Klinger called Weird Women 2, which is a follow-up anthology of classic horror stories by early female horror writers. And people think there were not many beyond Mary Shelley. There were a lot, and they wrote great stuff. So I've also recently appeared on a bunch of like podcasts and documentaries. I was in the Discovery Plus Demon in the White House documentary. I was on CNN's Margins of Error podcast, and I don't know about that with Jim Jeffries and all kinds of stuff. So
I was like, God, like that's fun, but I mean, I love the picture of you in the middle, but I wanted to get the whole thing in there, and sometimes I don't always get to. This is part of the cover of one of your books. I promise you, all of the pictures that I'm trying to show here on this bigger screen are in the event, on the event page, I should say. And so I'm just going to put one up there that actually fits. We're just going to put it on there, and I'm going to get out of the way for a hot minute. There you are. Check you out. So your shirt is your shirt one of your book covers, or
no?
What is the occasion?
The shirt actually says Certified Halloweenaholic, which is certainly me.
All right. So let's, let me just get back over here. These wood floors are a trip, but anyway, you have such an extensive background when it comes to books, and when it comes to information. You are the go-to person for a lot of things. Give us an example of what you do at this bookstore.
Oh, my day job is I am a used bookseller at one of the largest and oldest used bookstores in Southern California, the Iliad Bookshop, North Hollywood. Although I almost like to think it's the other way around, that the writing is the day job and supports my addiction to being a bookseller. It's an awesome place to work. I've been there for over 30 years, and I love working there. And one of the great things about it is because it's a used bookstore and we're always buying new stuff and taking new stuff in, it's a constant flow of resource material for my nonfiction writing, and it has yielded some truly amazing things over the years.
It has also sparked some incredibly interesting friendships and other interesting events that happen, especially when they find out that you maybe wrote some of these books that they are asking about, or that they have in their hand and they're like so excited because they got one, and they love your other collections of work. So give me some of that, because those are some good tidbits.
Yeah, it's funny that we actually sell a fair amount of books that I either wrote or have a story in or contribution in through this store. And I rarely tell people that that's me, because for one thing, they don't believe it. But my favorite story about that was, I once picked up the phone and there was a woman on the other end who said, yes, I'm looking for anything by this new author I've just discovered, who I'm absolutely in love with, and I just love her work, and her name is Lisa Morton. And of course you get a call like that and you're thinking, which one of my friends is this? This is really good. Is this, God, that's a great voice. How are they doing it? And then as I talked to her more, I realized, oh my God, this is actually for real. And I did end up coming out to her, and she was incredibly thrilled and believed me for a change. And that was several years ago. We've since become friends, and she calls and we chat all the time at the store, and she's always very excited when I've got something new coming out. And then recently I actually was outed by someone who recognized my voice from all the podcasting.
Yes.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
It is pretty cool. So, all right. So a good part of my shows that I have done in past episodes, we talk about the point at which creating in horror is an outlet, a mental outlet for people who have been in very, very stressful situations. And this is their way that they either create in or that they love to immerse themselves into. I really want your take on the importance of having this particular kind of genre when there is a lot of stress, outside stress going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I have always felt like horror was incredibly important because it boils things down to good versus evil. It is kind of the most essential kind of storytelling to me, which is one of the things that draws me to it. I should say that I actually was not one of those people who was abused or molested as a child. I had a great childhood. So it's not that kind of outlet for me, but it certainly is an outlet for me to talk about all the things that I see that are horrifying in the world. And I just love it for those reasons, that it is a little bit cathartic in that sense that. And I love to write about things that I think are relevant, and it may be even a little bit political, which I know is something that a lot of writers shy away from, and I don't know why, and I wish they wouldn't. So I think you can tell a story like that without getting preachy or into any kind of bias or something. You can tell a great story about politics or socio-political commentary and make it punchy and exciting and horrifying and draw the reader in.
Absolutely. And I have the respect for people that have the understanding of that, but I guess I'm just I'm not there. So, but I do respect your opinion about it, because that's your opinion and that's how you are. So, there are other things that you have done in your most recent past that have gained appreciation of thousands of horror writers across the globe. And that was with you being the president for the past 5 years of the Horror Writers Association. I would love for you to be able to give a shout out for them, because I am in appreciation of what they do there, and a little bit about what it is like for people who may not know?
Yeah, just to be clear, I actually left that office in 2019. I was president from 2014 to 2019. The Horror Writers Association is a global organization. I think it now has over 2,000 members all over the world. It promotes horror writing in many different ways. It gives the Bram Stoker Awards every year. And I think it's now up to 12 or even 13 categories. And it offers things like mentor programs for writers who may just be starting out or who need a little bit of a leg up. And that's a program where they pair an experienced writer with somebody newer, or like I said, who is just trying to get a leg up. And that's one of the things that drew me to the organization. And one of the reasons I ended up becoming so deeply involved with it was I love helping writers. It's a really big deal for me. And what better way to help a lot of writers than be at the head of an organization like that? And it was a great 5 years. It's very difficult. It is a really time-consuming job. And I think a lot of people can only do it for a short amount of time before they're like, wait a minute, I got to get my own career back on track after this. Because it really does eat your life if you do it well, and it ate mine, but I'm really glad it did for those 5 years, because I feel like I accomplished some really genuinely good stuff for a lot of writers.
All right. Yes, absolutely. And I have gotten some of my best interviews from that association. So I am very appreciative of it. All right. So I know that you write in more genres than horror and nonfiction. So what you got? What else you got?
Yeah, I just over the last couple of years, I've started kind of investigating mystery, which I think is a really close cousin to horror, because they both kind of deal with death often, and exploring mysteries about things involving death and crime. And I was really, really honored and completely flabbergasted a couple of years ago when I had a story chosen to appear in Best American Mystery Stories 2020.
That's wow.
That was pretty astonishing. Yeah, that was one of those things where you get the email and you look at it, and again, you're like, hey, that's a pretty good hoax. It's, oh my God, I think that's real.
Is that for me? Am I the drama? I don't know. I don't think I'm the drama, but I could be. So, speaking of drama, do you enjoy drama, or as far as writing in it, or watching it, or is it something that you put on the shelf over there so that you can do horror and nonfiction?
No, I enjoy all kinds of things. I read widely. I mean, obviously, working in a bookstore, you kind of would expect that. Although I don't have as much time to read as I wish I had. And I watch all kinds of stuff. I will confess, I just finished watching all 8 episodes of Pam and Tommy, and I love the heck out of it. So yeah, I watch everything and read everything.
That's cool. So my point there is that it is important to have interests outside of what you create in, so that it helps to stimulate the work that you create in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having a more rounded ability to look at different ways that things are produced is also something that is important to creatives. Now, you have some work that you're doing currently that is very interesting. Let's talk about it.
Oh, I'm not even sure which one that is. Are we talking about my ghost magnet?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
The last 3 years, I have been the ghost reporter on a really popular podcast called Ghost Magnet with Bridget Marquardt. If people don't know who Bridget is, Bridget was the star of the reality show The Girls Next Door. She had a couple of other reality shows on. She is a fabulous person, and she is definitely a ghost magnet. She is a sensitive. She can walk into a room where something has happened and she will tell you, I feel pressure here, I feel strange, right here is where something happened. I'm very skeptical, but I've seen her do this and she's always right, which is really eerie. But for the last 3 years, she has done a weekly podcast where she interviews people in the field of paranormal investigations and cryptozoology and so forth. And I do a weekly little segment on it called The Ghost Report. And it's been really fun. It's been very surprising, like I said, to find myself a minor celebrity out of that, where people will recognize my voice. Or
Power of sound is amazing. It can draw people in, or it can, pique a curiosity. And if they like it, if they feel drawn into it, then, I started this show tonight about voice acting and the power of sound that emanates from someone who knows how to command the phrases so that it piques somebody's interest.
Oh, yes.
So piquing interest, do you prefer writing jump scares or do you like slow builds to the scare?
Oh, I like both, although I probably am much more of a slow builder than a jump scarer. The jump scare is harder to do, of course, in literature than it is in a movie, but I do see people do it, and quite often, sometimes it translates to a heavier gore element in literature, which is definitely not my thing. I enjoy reading that. It's not the kind of thing I enjoy writing. I'm much more of a person who's interested in the slow build, that sense of dread, that I feel like if you can do that right, it's something people take with them and it lingers. And that's the kind of impact I like to have on readers.
What scares you?
I get asked that a lot.
What scares you? I'm sorry, but that question just came to my mind. What scares you?
Not many things, oddly enough, but the one thing that has really started to scare me over the last couple of years, because I am, no longer as young as I once was, and I have cared for about the last 15 years for a parent with dementia. And I have seen what dementia has done to her, and my great-grandmother also had dementia. So the idea that I may have a predisposition to that, and having seen what it did to my mom, is something that scares the heck out of me.
We are very fortunate that science has started to really, really develop an interest in the precursors for Alzheimer's and dementia of different forms. And there are some things that can be done so that the mind still stays as intact as it can for longer than it would if we didn't have those avenues. So shout out to all these doctors and scientists who are paying attention to the needs of those who have mental stresses. Yeah, because the mental health is important.
Yeah, well, I was my mom's live-in caregiver for a few years, and she has the kind of dementia where she actually has full-on hallucinations and so forth. And I mean, I would be awakened by her at like 4 a.m. when she would be standing over my bed saying things like, "Who are those people living in the front hallway?" And that will get your heart hammering for sure. To be awakened out of a sound sleep by that in the middle of the night.
My daughter last night, she was awakened at 2:00 in the morning by the sound of someone bouncing a ball in the house. Now, we just moved into this house about a month and a half ago. And we, especially me, have ever since I was little, predestination, I guess, for seeing things that or hearing things that others can't. I looked into some of the physical reasons as to why something like that could happen. I started studying quantum physics. I studied for a good 5 or 6 years because I wanted to know if it was possible. Now scientists have discovered that there are approximately 11 dimensions. This isn't some hooey-wooey stuff. You can research it and find there are white papers on this, and that there are things that the eye cannot necessarily see that are there, that are happening. And I also did some research into this idea. People say there is no such thing as time. Time, everything is now. And as everything is now, you are able to touch certain particular points on that, not necessarily linear, because time is not linear. So there's a loop going on. I started researching that more because I have friends that have post-traumatic stress disorder. And post-stress disorder, traumatic disorder of the mind, a lot of times people feel, hear, smell, see whatever that stress was from back, we're supposed to say back then. And the fact that there is no such thing as time, that is the reason why they're still feeling the absolute thing that happened, and they're feeling it, and they're having all of their senses, everything going. And it is a distraction for their mind. So looking at different aspects of horror and paranormal and all of that, there are particular books and films where these people will feel more comfortable in that because they are, for some reason, dealing with this high level of stress, that it's almost a comforting thing. That's a lot of the psychological stuff that goes along with horror and paranormal. Out of this 5-minute rant that I've just done, is there anything that you would like to pick out of that to either rebuttal or to add?
No, I think you are onto some really major ideas there. I mean, it's interesting hearing you talking about time being a loop. Immediately puts me in mind of the idea of a residual haunting, which is something where the same traumatic experience just seems to play over and over and over. And that ties into something that is called stone tape theory among a lot of paranormal investigators. And stone tape theory, and the name, by the way, derives from an old movie from the 70s. I think it was a British horror film. And stone tape theory is the idea that there might be objects that actually somehow record these traumatic events and just replay them over and over and over. The object might be a house. It might be a particular form of rock, which is where that stone tape part of that comes in. And that certainly ties in with some of your quantum physics theories.
Yes.
And I also, one of my personal things that I have started to come to believe is that there are people, and I think you and Bridget probably are two of them, who are simply wired differently from the rest of us. And it might be a neurological thing.
Yes.
It can be as simple as the reason that some people are much better at, for example, playing music than others. I mean, I have zero musical talent whatsoever. I love to listen to it. Yeah.
Me too. I'm with you there.
Right. Why can't I get this? This is not that hard, but you just
can't do it.
you look at notes printed on a sheet of paper and you think, how does that translate to the sounds?
When I was doing the segment with Mariano, and as I was doing my research before, I was looking at those notes, and I'm like, it all looks like a foreign language, which it is. It's kind of sort of a foreign language, but it's based on beats. I have the impression that the state of everything is based on numbers. Okay, so we got, you need numbers and numbers of beats and all of that for music and stuff. So I'm thinking, all right, there's this fabric that is going on. And so if there's this fabric going on, we think of fabric, we think, this, but there's other things that are going on that cause fabric for time. And so, yeah, that idea of having a something imprinted, absolutely. And I had a conversation with somebody who said that they picked up a piece from an antique shop and they loved it. They were just immediately drawn to it. They didn't care how much it was. They had to have it. And they brought it into the house and everything was, hunky-dory for a while. Then about 3 weeks later, weird things started happening in their house and they could not explain it. And around that piece that they had brought, it had drawers and like a hutch kind of thing going on. And they're the only one in the house. So there's like they were living by themselves and that's the way they liked it, but they were, by themselves. And they knew that, they would go through each of the rooms and they would, secure everything before they went to bed. And they'd come downstairs in the morning and find that the drawers were open. The, the papers or something like that were on the floor from the thing. And she's like, she thought she was like losing her mind. She thought maybe she was coming down in the middle of the night, sleepwalking or something. Mm-hmm. So she put in a camera and she saw some things and stuff. And she's like, there's something going on with that. And she had to bring somebody in to investigate. So you have done paranormal investigation before. Now, yeah. Okay, so this lady calls you up and says, hey, yo, there's a body, and I got this thing and it's doing these weird things and I've got cameras and there's nobody else in the house. I need some help or answers or something to make it stop because I like the piece. I want to keep it. What do you do?
Boy, that's not the kind of paranormal investigation I've ever been involved with, but that is a very difficult question, certainly. I mean, I've heard of all kinds of things from maybe they call it a medium who might try to communicate with whatever is causing this object to do this, and see if they can talk it into moving on is something. I actually have a wonderful friend named Patty Negri who is a witch, and that's one of the things that she specializes in is helping these trapped things move on. Certainly the whole idea of exorcism plays into that as well. And there's like a line at which my belief stops with a big thud. And I think I'm not a believer in things like demonic forces or something. I'm just not sure about any of it at this point. And that's why I like to be a really open skeptic. I'm open to anything that makes sense in terms of explanation. But
so you like to go and all right, maybe so I'm going to out myself a little bit here because some people who don't know would probably be like, where's she going with this line of questioning? Yeah, so I've been involved in those kinds of things, and it is good, though, for me, think about going in and seeing what is physically wrong with the area. And so we'll go around and we'll do a literal forensic search what's happening here? Is there any, any storms going on, any electrical, because electrical magnetism can do a lot of things. And it doesn't necessarily, it can spark something that has the austere of being paranormal. But once you get to the thing that's causing it to do that, then you're like, okay, so this is doing that. This is the reaction. This is, well, that's a cause. Now this is the reaction. Now, if we take some of these elements and pull them apart, is it still going to do the thing?
Right.
Or if it's still going to continue doing the thing, that means we need to look at something else that maybe we haven't thought about. So we bring in other people who are really good at looking at the groundwork, or like the water systems, or electricity that's outside of our scope to look at, because we can have like little gadgets to go around and check things out. But every once in a while, there is going to be a situation that bears more investigation.
Yeah.
And that takes someone who understands that not everything happens inside the box where we can see, where we can physically see with our eyes. Our eye spectrum, I figured out that young people, they can see things more clearly in a broader spectrum. I'm thinking because their eyes have not fully developed into the, as we say, a young teen going into young adult, they're have a broader spectrum. And because of this, they're able to see things a little bit more, I would say, clearly. And they can be very good at sourcing out energy that is odd. And because too, they are very sensitive, going through learning about their bodies, learning about different people and relationships and who they are, they can be very good when it comes to solving some of these lesser evils, so to speak. We're not talking about the other stuff because that is a whole nother other subject. But that, and just because your physical eye cannot see it does not mean it's not happening.
Right.
Yeah. So, but the gadgets are cool and all of that, and they help source out a lot of things that can be eliminated, and maybe give that person some peace of mind. It's, oh, it's just this, and that's why it's causing that. And then it stops.
Yeah. I was at a paranormal investigation once in a very old house. I mean, they're always in old houses, right? And or old structures.
Not always, but yeah, good amount.
We had K2 meters, which are the handheld devices that measure electromagnetic radiation.
Yeah.
And a standard tool now in paranormal investigation.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of controversy over them.
Yes.
But, we were standing in front of a staircase that went up to a third floor of this house, and they called this staircase the murdered staircase. And they said that there was a story that one servant in the distant past had murdered another on this staircase. And the K2 meter, sure enough, would fire off whenever you came up near this particular staircase. And as we were standing in front of it, the K2 meters were going nuts, but there was an odd panel to the left of the staircase. And I said, what's behind that panel door? And we opened it, and it was the ancient fuse box. So there you go. That's how an example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There are really easy, simple explanations for
you
some
have
of these.
to go in when you're first doing a full investigation. One of the basic things to do is look for where those electrical circuits are. And if you need to, turn them all off. And also, don't carry cell phones around that are like on and getting a signal, because hello, EMF signature right here. There are, because of old houses. Now this house, I think, was built in 1918 or 1917. So it
Oh.
has it's pretty cool. It's got the I would say archway, but it doesn't arch. It's just like a regular walkthrough, divide, I guess. But it's got the old doors that are like embedded into the walls. It's so cool. We haven't figured out how to get them to actually fully work because they haven't been used in I don't know how long, but they're very awesome. And at the top of the steps, there's another one. And my kids have never seen something like that before. And it's just a small hallway, but it has one of these embedded doors and you pull out. This one upstairs doesn't pull out because it's just jammed in there. But because of the water and all that heat, cold, all of that, it makes those panels kind of wonky and they'll warp. So that's why you can't pull it out. One of my kids was like fascinated with that because they'd never seen anything like that before. And I said, yeah, because when this house was first built, I would assume it was like coal or like a fireplace that is no longer in existence in here. But that's how they heated the thing. And to keep that heat in, they had to have these wooden doors so that they would keep the heat from going up too far and allowing for the rest of the house they needed heated to stay like that.
Interesting. Now I'm wondering, so was there anything more that came from your one kid hearing the bouncing ball?
My children are extremely sensitive. They're highly sensitive. And so she heard it and she I leave my phone on at night because you never know when you're going to get a text message. I have 6 kids and my husband works 3rd shift. So I leave it on. It was on vibrate because I just turned the sounds off. And I had fallen asleep before 4 o'clock, which is unusual because I am a vampire and I'm a night owl. And my phone was buzz. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? So you know how you fumble around to try to get the whatever the heck thing is that's making a noise. And then you're like, what is this? And I'm trying to answer her messenger and I can't get it to work, but it's buzz. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I know it's her. And she said in a message, she said, something doesn't feel right. I heard something. Did you hear it? And I'm like, busy sleeping to be hearing anything. And I didn't tell her that though. So I'm like trying to get the thing messenger for the video call to come up and it's just refusing. And finally I got it to work. And she said, she told me what was going on. And I said, you want me to come down? She goes, yeah, like right now. I'm like, so I get myself put together. I come downstairs. She has one of her rooms. She has 2 rooms in the house, but she has one that's in the basement that she loves being down there because it's just comfortable to her. And so I open the door and I'm calling down to her and I'm like, well, I'm here. What do you want to do? What is going to make you more comfortable? So at first I thought she said that the sound was coming from upstairs, which would be the kitchen. But this afternoon, she said that it was coming from her right directly in her room. And to hear a ball bouncing on concrete floor, that's a specific kind of a sound. And she's like, yeah, I need to be upstairs. So I said, just come and sleep on the couch if you're more comfortable. But I have not had time because I've been working crazy hours just to get this show produced, to go around and do anything. I haven't cleared the house. I haven't gone through it with any dragon's blood or anything to clear it. I should have done that by now, but I have been busy doing other things. I don't personally feel, I haven't seen anything, I haven't heard anything. And I can't say I haven't felt something, but there's something going on. It could be this residual that you're talking about, or it could be something else. But then there's something else to consider. Places, yes, can be haunted, but I find that when I am doing this kind of work, and I've been doing it for 30 years, people are haunted. People have so many other people that their lives have touched. And think about it like this. Everything has energy about it. Everything. You can feel the energy in the room. You know, if it's good and happy and all that, you're like, yeah, I'm vibing. And if it's not so much and it's very, depressive, you feel that too. It's all energy. And when you go and you like have conversations, no matter if you're like, in person or if you're like this, you're still getting that energy of that person because you're getting it from their voice, sound. Think about a thumbprint of every person you have ever had contact with in all of that energy that is around you and who you are, part of you. And yeah, people can carry that. And a lot of times when people will say, oh, I keep getting these same kinds of people. And well, usually when they say that, they're like, ugh, kind of people. Well, what have you done to clear that energy? What have you done to disconnect? What have you done for your mind, body, and soul? What have you done to help yourself? And they'll be like, well, I keep attracting this. Well, there's a reason for it. There's either a lesson that you need to learn, or there's something that you need to put down from that thing, that timeline thing that we call our past, and release it. Because if you don't, you keep attracting that stuff. And there's lots of different ways that you can do. There's some psychological ways. You can go to a therapist. I highly recommend doing that because there are a lot of them out there that know what they're doing. But if you can't do that, then you have to find another way to do that. And so some people go out into the environment, out where there are trees or water or where there are museums, so their mind can rest for a little bit. And all of that goes back to the, can you take that part of you and create something with it, or help somebody else who does create and be their inspiration for that? That's all part of that rabbit hole that I started going down when I first started creating this show. It's all energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, energy is certainly the basis of most paranormal investigations and beliefs. And it's interesting how many of the gadgets that you've mentioned respond to energy. I mean,
yeah, you can pick one up and you'd be like, yeah, you can pick one up and you can, turn it on. I mean, you've got, an energy signature on your own body. You learned about that, about energy signature when you were in science class, when you were probably in grade school, where they said, hey, take a look at the photosynthesis thing that's going on with this leaf. And they didn't say energy signature back then, but they had some other way that they described it. And you would say, oh yeah, wow, that's cool. And moved on to something else, because at that point in time back then it was irrelevant. But now science has caught up with the fact that there is something else going on that's not, it's more than just this physical body. And so because of that, we need to look at what the energy signature of this human who is having this particular thing going on, what it is, and if there's a way to help balance it out. And there are a lot of different kinds of ways to do that. And being in the paranormal field, is part of it, but there's lots of other things that are outside of that that are very helpful in being able to balance that, where you don't have to get uncomfortable or go against a religious code or what your family values are or anything like that. You can figure it out. You just have to be willing to listen.
Yeah, and certainly that's one of the reasons we have art and literature. And
yes.
so forth, is it helps us to balance those things out.
So when you're going and creating, and you've done a lot of it over the decades that you have worked in these genres, what do you feel has recently made you feel like you're advancing in your profession?
What are some of the recent? There have been always like little stepstones along the way. It's a big deal when you sell your first short story. And my first short story sale was 1993 or 2, and it was to the incredible British editor Stephen Jones, who has become a very dear friend. Stephen has bought more of my work than anyone else, and he bought that first short story, which was actually based on a one-act play I had done that had been very successful. It was called Sane Reaction. And the story version was published in a book called Dark Voices 6. And since then, he's bought more than a dozen things, I think, from me. And that was a huge milestone. And publishing my first nonfiction book, which was the Halloween Encyclopedia. And it's funny, I just today was checking on when did that come out? It came out almost 20 years ago in 2003. And that was a big deal.
Let's talk about that, because it is a big deal. You did a lot of research on that, and I want our audience to know about, just give us an insight, like a synopsis, a little bit more than what you just said about it.
Yeah, it was the first encyclopedic reference on Halloween. And it was funny because there have been lots of Christmas encyclopedias. And at the time that I proposed the book, I was working with this publisher, McFarland, and I had actually done, I shouldn't say it was my first nonfiction book, because I had done a film book for them. And after that film book, they came back and they said, hey, do you want to do another book with us? And I looked at books they had put out, and they had put out a Christmas encyclopedia. And I said, well, hey, nobody's ever done a Halloween encyclopedia. And I always say now, it's so bizarre that I had this idea it was going to be easy. And of course, it took like 3 years. This is back before you could find things on the internet. So researching an encyclopedic reference 20 years ago was
a nightmare.
It was
literally a nightmare.
It was a fun nightmare, though.
Yes.
It involved things like endless trips to the downtown library. And I'm really lucky that I live in LA, where we have an incredible
wow, yes.
I mean, one of the best in the world. And I got to know librarians there, and they were very helpful. And I would endlessly dig out old facts about Halloween. And working at the bookstore was a huge plus. That was a wonderful resource. And so finally, I brought out this book, the Halloween Encyclopedia. And the first edition came out in 2003. I did a second edition in 2011. And researching an encyclopedic reference, you amass so much information that it's really easy to roll that over into other books. So
yeah,
I've done 3 books now about the history of Halloween, and the last one came out in 2014, I think it is, and that was Trick or Treat: A History of Halloween, and that won all kinds of awards, and it was really fun to write. And so yeah, that Halloween encyclopedia was a huge milestone for me, because it kind of suddenly marked me as this expert in something, which was really weird. And because of that, I got all kinds of odd, interesting offers. And this was, again, back in the day before we did things like podcasts, but I would get every October, especially, I'd get dozens of interview requests from places like the Boston Globe and Real Simple Magazine, and just, I mean, these really cool places. So
they're paying attention to your work because you did the research. You got in there and did the thing.
I did the thing, and the timing was lucky too, because about the time I was doing that encyclopedia was about the time that Halloween exploded, and it really exploded, and not just within the US, but globally. And 20 years ago, when I was doing that first edition of the encyclopedia, most countries in the world were barely aware of Halloween. They had no idea what like trick or treat was.
Right.
Just within the last 15 years, it has gone nuts. I mean, almost everywhere in the Northern Hemisphere loves Halloween now. And they have their own haunted attractions and their own trick or treat and their own costume and their own pumpkin farms. And I mean, it's just crazy how it has grown exponentially in just the last 15 years. And so, like I said, for once my timing was right, and I was right there on the cusp of that huge explosion of interest in Halloween.
A lot of that has to do with witchery and going in there, and the women that used to be the herbalists that would heal, and there were women and men, because they were, you know, that's depending on the sect of witchery, there are different particular rules, but many of them were kitchen witches, and they would make the magic happen that would make your food taste good, or they would make the magic happen that healed someone because they knew how to craft the herbs that were, you know, provided by the source of whatever this makes this thing go around, you know, and put them all together so that they could actually be something that would be beneficial. Sometimes they would harm, but you know, we don't talk about that. They do the thing back then that the pharmacists are doing now, and they are still getting frowned on now.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Although there were some very funny prosaic reasons why Halloween spread around the globe over the last 15 years. One television show had a lot to do with it, The Simpsons. And The Simpsons, yeah, this is weird, but American sitcoms have spread Halloween around the world because they are syndicated all over the world. And The Simpsons is one of the most successful syndicated series in history. And it does a yearly Halloween show. And things like Roseanne were really important. The back in the 80s and 90s, shows like Roseanne would do a yearly Halloween show. And people in other countries started getting these shows as they were syndicated around the world. And they would see these Halloween episodes and they would think, that looks really effing fun. You know, I love the way the kids are dressed up and the trick or treat thing looks fun. And then the part two of this is that you get the fast food companies like McDonald's coming in and going, hey, you guys like that? We've got a yearly trick or treat Happy Meal for you.
All right, we got some fun stuff. Well, you know what? We have brought ourselves up to the 12:55 mark. We got 5 more minutes left. I would love for you to let me know, because I don't think you've been on this show before, have you?
Many years ago.
But our long time.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
So what do you think about what Zombiepalooza Radio Live has evolved into in 2022?
Oh, it's so cool that we have all the different ways of streaming these things now and making them available. I think when I did it many years ago, it was like just on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
You know, now you can
live
do it
stream. Oh my goodness, it was live stream. That's what we used. Oh wow, it wasn't even YouTube.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Well, yeah, it was live stream.
I mean, it's so cool that we have all these streaming platforms now where all kinds of different people get to participate and watch. And so that part of it is great. And I know you've been at this for like 5 hours now, and you are seriously a trooper, and you're doing a great job. And I mean, after 5 hours, I think I'd be ready to go pass out. So
We've been doing this show since 2012, and I started doing 5-hour shows about 6 months into this thing I call Zombiepalooza Radio Live. And so to go from a 2-hour show to a 3-hour show to a 5-hour show in 6 months' time gives a lot of credit to all of those creatives that keep saying yes to coming on and doing this indie show. I appreciate every single one of them, even my haters. And the reason why I say that is because they kept saying, oh, you can't do that, or oh, you suck at this, and oh, blah, blah, blah. And I got better. So yeah, I've got some like drop dead amazing content that is going to be coming your way. And I wanted to start off my season with like some of the best creatives on the planet. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. I appreciate your road moving forward, and would love to have you back on probably in another maybe 5-6 months to see what else you're doing, and maybe Halloween too. So, you know, mark your calendar. I'm like already, I'm wanting to book you around that time of year too, just because I know you're going to have something else fascinating for us to share. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. And I'm working on something so cool right now that I'm not supposed to talk about yet, but I would definitely love to come back and chat about that when I can talk about it.
Thank you. So just, you know, send me an email or something like that. Hey, if you're listening to this show right now, I want you to think about who you would love to see on next, and drop us a line at Zombiepalooza Radio Live. Our messaging center is open on that page. We are also going to be able to have this show full 5-hour show from tonight. We're going to be broadcasting it onto the YouTube channel as a rebroadcast when we get it all rendered and uploaded and downloaded and all that other creepy stuff that you need to do. And so we'll be looking for you there. Please stop by these guest pages, their Facebook page, their web pages, give them likes and shares, buy their stuff, look at their stuff, engage with them, because that's what this show is about. And speaking of engagement and all that, give me your social media before we go.
The easiest thing is go to lisamorton.com, and from there you can go to my Facebook or my Instagram, and I'm just getting started on TikTok now.
Yeah. Oh, you got to friend me on TikTok too. ZPR, it's ZPR Media 2022 on TikTok. Yeah, so, and I'll write all that stuff out later. And thank you so much. I'm going to call it a night. It has been a pleasure. This is Jackie Chin. We are Zombiepalooza Radio Live, and we're signing off. Bye.
Bye-bye.